Good evening. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published to the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press, and are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. Before we start, I'd like to read a statement into the record. I'd like to address the council. I had the opportunity to watch our last meeting being rebroadcast on Channel 77. I found it to be a painful experience, and I was embarrassed by what I saw and heard. At many points in the meeting, there were as many as 3 people speaking at once, and the camera caught many instances of conversations between council members while someone else had the floor. I'm sure you're aware that I take my job as mayor seriously. One of the most important duties I have is to chair the meetings, something I've been doing for 15 years. As the chair, it's my responsibility to give the floor to individuals at the table who have signaled to me that they wish to speak. I have always been extremely reluctant to cut off anyone who I previously recognized, but our meetings are getting out of control. The chair has a right to interrupt the speaker if they are straying off topic, repetitive, or inappropriate. I intend to maintain that prerogative. One final point. Most well-run municipalities have meetings that normally run no more than an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. It's understandable if an agenda is exceedingly long, the meeting can often be extended. However, it's extremely inappropriate for one member of the governing body to speak at length on every issue. Our meetings end up with 1 or 2 people holding the floor for an excessive percentage of the time. I would ask the members of the council to be more discriminating as to when they take the floor. We will be judged not by how often we speak or how long, but what is accomplished as a result of what we bring to the table. Okay, just a reminder to the public, this is a combined meeting. We have a work session, then we go into a public meeting, although we've had a habit of staying in this room. At the public meeting, we take public comment. The first item we have is presentations. John Hogan here?
Yes.
I should have known better. John Hogan is everywhere. It's my honor to introduce to you our clerk, our county clerk. But I knew him as a mayor when he was just a mayor. But John, like many other people that we're fortunate to work with, takes his job very seriously and has raised this position to a very high level. And for that, we're all appreciative. John, I'm going to slide out of the way so that you can command the floor.
Okay, Mayor, members of the governing body, I'm not going to take too much of your time, but I thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. What I've been doing for the past 2 years is going throughout the county. Actually, I was just in Sunnyside Park tonight in Tenafly for my daughter's game. I never knew that section of the town.
Well, some of the grant writers don't know that's there either.
It's a nice walking path. And I worked in Barrett Funeral Home, when I was in college.
Yeah, we know.
Well, you know that's been sold.
I know, I heard. So, speaking about my offices around the county initiative, you've already taken advantage once or twice of our temporary satellite office where we come out, do passports, business trade names, notary publics, photo cards for seniors, exempt firefighters and veterans, and we have election information. We can help you with anything in our office. So please, let's make it a regular thing, okay? And we've been publicizing it on our very popular election calendar, much beloved election.
That's right.
The other thing is, I may have mentioned this before, but we like to come out and do presentations. We can speak on elections. We've been hitting high schools, a lot of high schools. I think we have 2 this week, where seniors are really motivated, high school seniors. And we're going out, we do a pitch for voter registration. Last week, where was it, Steve, last week?
We're in
Where we did the 94. Cliffside Park, we did 94. That doesn't mean where they filled out the papers and they're not going to count, because we spot check them, make sure they have either their driver's license number or the last 4 of the social. Sometimes they don't know what municipality means, so we have to fill that out for them too. So we did Dumont, we've been all around. If you can get us out to any of your schools at all, whatever grade, and we can start that conversation going about voting.
We're all 94 Democrats? You're just...
Hillside Park, probably.
Have you been to Tenafly yet?
Have we been to?
Not yet,
I don't
not
think
yet.
so.
Well, why don't you leave your card and I'll
Yes, I
ask
will.
somebody to get a hold of you.
And so what we do is I tell my personal reason why I got registered to vote. Some of the girls start crying then, and I tell how I never missed an election, and then they all get registered to vote. It worked very well. We can speak to seniors about our services. We can do a multitude of presentations, historical, etc. The last one is why we're here tonight is way back when, before there was a George Washington, before there was a Revolutionary War, there was a county clerk. Because someone had to keep track of all the land records throughout this county. Someone had to report that back to the king in England. When there were freeholders, who were people who owned the land and had no debt, those freeholders had to have their minutes transcribed, and that was by the county clerk. Thank God I don't do that anymore. I'd be out every night. We have some old maps and things that predate both world wars, the Spanish-American War, the Civil War, go way back. We have a map of Mawa that's made out of animal skin.
Wow.
And has nothing but hand-drawn trees on it, and I said teepees, but then after I looked at it with the historian, it's actually Native American huts throughout, and there's nothing else. There's nothing else up there in Mawa. So the sheriff, he seems to think that he's been around a lot longer than me, maybe in his lifetime he has, but the position hasn't been. And since he's not here tonight, we can say it's been the county clerk. Because they needed somebody with a pencil before a gun. All right. My job is to preserve records, and as I said, we have all the incorporation papers from all 70 towns. We have maps, and they were all preserved pretty well for the last century. They were put in boxes. The part about the maps I have to bring up because I don't like, they were rolled up, which they shouldn't have been. They should have been laid flat. That's how you do them now. And they were placed in a room, temperature control room. We took all of these items out with the help of the county historian, who's one person, so we got her as we could, and we scanned all the items. The gloves, and then we place the items in acid-free sleeves. So hopefully they'll last a lot longer, because you can see one tonight is starting to deteriorate that we reproduced. And we put them back in the temperature control room. Everything's laid flat. Everything's labeled so we know where it is. So we did a good job. We preserved them with today's technology. The next part of my job, I think, is to share those items with everyone. Because every town, every municipality in this county, all 70, have their own unique character, their own unique identity. I was at Rockley. Rockley has a different identity than Northvale. Rockley takes from Northvale, but that's a conversation for another day. So what I'd like to show you tonight are the items that we found that were pertinent to Tenafly. I'm going to explain them in a couple of seconds. But these items were all reproduced at the suggestion of the historian, who said that none of us are historians. It was a volume of information we had to take a look at. So why not reprint the ones that make the best presentation, that are most eye-catching, just to start the conversation about a town's own unique character. And that's what we've done. So we have a multitude of things that we thought were kind of cool to reproduce here for Tenafly. You should know, because I always forget to say it, that is anybody an attorney? Somebody must be an attorney here, right?
Oh,
You know, you did real estate law. Real estate
For
law.
the room.
15 years ago, the county clerk's registry division, where all the land records were in a vault in the courthouse. For the past 15, 16 years, it's been a big room that never ends.
Right.
We changed the name of that to the Land Records Management Division. And now, because so many documents are coming off the shelves, we have room, we're going to make an historical research center. One of these for every town that appear on all the walls. We're going to invite your historians to come down, or anybody from the public to come down. Right now, if you go onto our website, there's a map of Bergen County. Many of the towns we've already populated this information on, that if you click onto Tenafly, hopefully if Tenafly has been populated, you'll see all of these documents. You can reprint them yourself from your home computer, or you can come down. The original documents, we have our staff will be ready once this is all set to actually reprint these documents in a historical type manner. The county has, the historical area in the county is probably half the size of this room. That's where the records are stored. The historian is more than grateful for us to take many of those documents and put them up on permanent display in this historical research center. So we have a little extra room, we're putting it to good use. And we'll let you and the governing body know when we have the ribbon cutting on that. So let's put it all in perspective, Mayor. The first European settlers in Tenafly were Dutch. You know that there were many Dutch and German, but way back when, during the Revolutionary War, there was a county clerk named Hogan. The name Tenafly itself, we know where it came from. Tenafly was incorporated as a borough on January 24th, 1894 by an act of New Jersey State Legislature from portions of then Palisades Township based on the results of a referendum held the previous day. The borough was formed during the boroughitis. 26 municipalities were formed at that time alone. And you also acquired portions of Palisades Township were acquired based on legislation approved on April 8th, 1897. What was happening in the year that you were formed, Columbus World Fair in Chicago was destroyed by fire. We had the first college basketball game. The state of New York enacts the nation's first dog licensing law. It's been a nuisance ever since. Coca-Cola is sold in bottles for the first time in Mississippi, of all places. First polio epidemic. Decision to hold the modern Olympics every 4 years. Labor Day is established. Aqueduct Racetrack opens. And Grover Cleveland. What's so special about Grover Cleveland, our president?
It was
elected twice.
2 non-consecutive
terms,
terms. Yeah. You know, he was also the sheriff. And you know, he also hung somebody. But I think it had something to do with the re-election because he always had somebody else do it. So we'd just like to show you what we have here. Milton Hershey also started Hershey's. Let me just open this. The first time I tried to do this, I couldn't see anything, so I reproduced them. Many maps. One map is this one. It was filed in the office of Bergen County Clerk February 26, 1866, which puts it probably less than a year after the end of the Civil War, if my history is right. And as you examine it, you can see where it mentions the Tenafly train station on the Northern Railroad. We have a map of the property Highland of the Northern Railroad, 14 miles from New York City. It was filed in the office of Bergen County Clerk May 31st, 1878. It has Cottage Place. Is that in Tenafly?
No.
Doesn't exist.
Okay. How about Engel Street?
Yes.
All those in
So, in some place here, there's a Hudson Street.
Yeah.
Okay. Tenafly Road. Okay. So that's listed here. You'll see some of the streets that still exist. We have a map of the property belonging to L.B. Palmer, Tenafly. It was prepared by Watson Clark, filed in the office of Bergen County Clerk December 15, 1906. There's property that's owned by Herring, it says, and then Hensel, and then J.H. Cooper. That's the guy that jumped from the plane. And a number of other people. We have a map of the property of the Tenafly Land Development Company, formerly part of Camp Merritt, situated in the boroughs of Tenafly and Cresskill. And I think this one has a division. There's Maple Avenue on here, is Spruce Street.
Yes.
Hickory Avenue.
Yeah.
Knickerbocker. I crossed out Day Avenue because that's actually in Cresskill.
No, that's Tenafly.
Both.
Oh, okay.
Councilman Evans and Bay Avenue.
Is it in Cresskill?
It's right on the boat. Goes into Bergenfield.
We have Frederick Hoert, H-O-E-R-T, weird name, says that on this 10th day of January 1894, he set up notices of elections in the most public places within the boundaries of the proposed Borough of Tenafly, and those places were the Northern Railroad Depot, Post Office, store of A.G. Demarest,
Yeah.
Clinton House, Valley House, store of James Butler. And it was for an election notice that was to occur on Tuesday, the 23rd day of January 1894. That's this one right here. Okay, that's the one, you can see it's on the interior of the one. We have the Borough of Tenafly, March 31st, 1950, to Mr. Alexander Allen, who may have been the longest serving county clerk. I think he served 30 years, right? 30 years? I'm not going to be Enclosed, find a certified copy of resolution adopted by the mayor and council of the Borough of Tenafly, the regular meeting held on March 28, 1950. And Edwin B. Phillips was the borough clerk. And the resolution was to shorten the name of Tenafly. Instead of the Borough of Tenafly, it was changed to Borough of Tenafly.
Very efficient.
That was done before I was.
We'll take that up tonight.
Long discussion on that one.
We also have some exempt firefighter certificates in here, which here it is. We have from January 20th, 1898 to the clerk of Bergen County. They're entitled to exempt status. And, you know, if you look at these, you may see some names of older families, you know, Westerfeld,
Yeah.
Gray, Brewster, Oakley, Farrington, I think this one is an Orf. Tenafly Volunteer Fire Department, June 22nd, 1903, to the county clerk, John R. Ramsey, entitled to exempt status. That's if they serve 7 years or more. David Brown, Henry Block, some other names on here, and John Gray again, R.W. Moore, etc. And then we have from August 25th, 1906, this is certifying an exempt firefighter. We think the name is Charles L.A. Kruger, K-R-U-G-E-R, but as you can see, it's handwritten. So Mayor, we have another certificate too. William T. Powell was an exempt firefighter in 1917. John H. Gray was either chief or mayor. Was he mayor? And W.M. Powell was either the clerk or the secretary at the time. So Mayor, we'd like to present this to you. You can display it wherever you see fit within your community, and we'll invite you when we have the grand opening of our historic research.
Karen, why don't you come up? You're the chair of our Historic Preservation Commission. Karen News.
Hi, how are you, Ken? Nice to see you. Good. Okay. Now, let me take it if the mayor smiles. It was Abe Lincoln.
Mayor Gray down the end of the hall isn't smiling. None of us smiling.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of the governing body. Have a good night.
Thank
Nice
you.
to
Your
meet
way
you.
up. There's two historic minutes on the
We're going to take our...
I'll have the high school get in touch with you.
All right, the meeting is adjourned, 30 minutes past, sit. 30 minutes, we go home now.
Your lips to God's ears.
Well, you know,
It's really interesting, that stuff.
you said an hour and a half, that's it, we're done.
I'd love to go and see the originals. I hope they can.
Yes, you'll let us know when the exhibit opens up again.
Yeah, we will.
In Hackensack. Okay, is Chief Chamberlain here? Yep. I didn't see him. No, I'm sorry. To be considered, we're talking about traffic circulation in downtown Tenafly, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the council has had an opportunity to look at the traffic study that was done, was it 8 years ago, Shama?
Yeah, long time ago, man. I'm trying to look at the date, but it's... Yeah, 2012. Right.
Yeah, 6 years ago. I will tell you something, I had an interesting conversation with our borough engineer yesterday about the intersection of Dean and East Clinton. We're talking about, putting a regular traffic light there rather than a blinking light, and he said to me that that would be useless unless we also changed the other 3 lights, one in front of Mount Carmel, one on Hillside, and one on Highwood. And his estimate to change those 4 lights would be on the wrong side of $2 million.
Whoa.
Which is, I think, coming back to in the 8 years now coming back, I think that might have been one of the reasons why we,
I think that was one of the reasons. When
I mean, but
originally it was
in
discussed.
reality, it was presented to us
Yeah.
that we didn't have to do the entire study at once. We could have done it in sections. Each section might have ended up costing over $1 million or $2 million. Because we're talking about beyond the lights, perhaps creating pedestrian plazas, changing a little bit of the lights. You know, the crazy part about this whole equation is the cost of traffic lights. You know, to do a computerized intersection now is a fortune.
But can we do it on county road, Mayor? Or we
would need county.
the county.
We would need county
Wouldn't the county be willing to share the cost of something?
Should they ask John while he was here?
So tomorrow, that's gonna be one of the questions we wanna ask.
Well, that's the state, not the county, but it is a good question. It's a
Yes,
good
no,
question.
it's one of the questions that I have
District
on my list.
37.
Yeah.
So, anybody have any questions, or Chief, do you want to talk about your sense of traffic circulation downtown Tenafly, and, you know?
Just really quick, I just touch on the lights, you just mentioned something. I believe, and again, this is my time in the Traffic Bureau, that I think if towns make some improvements to some of the intersections, the county will provide a light and take it over, but the town should make some adjustments, but I think that is an option, but you have to look into that. As far as this downtown traffic circulation study, I think it came out last time we spoke about this, and again, when this first happened, I think I was just coming from the traffic bureau into administration, but I've been in the traffic bureau for quite some time, and having a lot of experience there. I'm a firm believer that phase one will work and it'll be very successful. Again, it comes at a heavy cost, but phase one, which you guys have it, basically what you're doing is that if you're taking those two approaches, one, they're both on Piermont Road, but one going past the train station and one going by the bus stop, you eliminate them. What you do now is now you improve the light cycles of those intersections. You remove that cycle, so you get to add more time to the other directions, and so that will definitely move traffic. That's
And what will
simple
take
math.
to do that?
What's that?
What will take to do that?
Well, that's in the things, but basically, well, it's about $1 million, unfortunately. But it was closing them up, it was making them...
This is the plazas you're talking about.
I mean,
We'd be closing up the parking lot at the end of Piermont Road, so the cars that went in by
Yeah,
Cafe
I saw the
Angelique would
map,
have to
yeah,
go out.
yeah.
This would require rerouting the buses.
Yes.
Okay, which we do during the concerts in any case. But the second part of it is to close off the area by the bus shelter. So the buses would stop, 50 feet to the east, where that island is now. That would be the bus. That would be the bus stop.
Okay.
But what you're doing is the cycle at the intersection of J and Washington Avenue, where it crosses the tracks there, you'd have one less part of the cycle because you wouldn't have buses or any cars coming where the bus shelter is. And then over at the corner of East Clinton and County Road, once again, the cycle is shortened because you wouldn't have, but that's the shortest cycle. The amount of time that light is green where cars can come from Cafe Angelique, that parking area, is very short.
But you also have the amber built-in, you also have a four-way red interchange, which is basically everything's red, and so there's more seconds on top of it. It would make an improvement. It's expensive. And I think I had said also, I would be willing something to try, something to do as a pilot program, something, test it out. We could do that. It would take, something, it would take some doing something. But could we get the approvals from the NJ Transit, something, and the county, something, and do some barricades and try it out? We could. The only question is the bus, instead of it now going south on Piermont Road by the bus stop, it's going making a run of Highwood, so it's making a swing, but. Something, I think that's the best way to try something out, is do a pilot program and try it out. It would take some planning if you want to move,
So when we do our things in the parks by Cafe Angelique, street fairs, this concert series or whatever, have you noticed any changes when you close off Piermont at Cafe Angelique?
Changes as into the improvement of traffic?
Yeah, flow-wise.
No, because the light's still cycling.
Well,
even though no one's coming out,
Right,
it's
right.
still
But also, the street fairs on Saturday and Sunday, which are the slowest days, there's no commuter traffic. The concerts are in the evening, don't really have you know, most of the traffic in the evening is going up County Road. So, Dan, I'll let Dan finish, and then your turn next.
So on that same idea, if you were to barricade off Piermont by Cafe Angelique, could you have officers manually directing traffic based on time, like on their own timing?
For how long? For when, though?
Just to run like a pilot, like, is that what you meant by a pilot program?
Well, what we'd have to do is we'd have to get the traffic signal maintenance to come in and program that light to, I guess, skip that cycle. So,
That's what you mean by
but
pilot.
anyone who traverses that area, and you're all residents or work here, you've
Right.
gone through something, I mean, it would probably benefit mostly probably West Clinton Avenue and also the cycle coming out of Mount Carmel. But, you know, it would make an improvement, and also too, it would definitely make a dramatic improvement over by Washington West Railroad Avenue, which is too long, or something.
Yeah,
Pedestrians
that's
get
a
frustrated
very
because they're
long
sitting there and
line.
they're trying to abide by the pedestrian interval, but it's too long. So
That's
you
70
eliminate
seconds.
that one leg, it's gonna make an improvement there. So if phase one is something that you wanna try, I mean, again, I can't do it overnight or something, but we'd have to, you know, it would take some planning, but we could potentially,
Would you put together a presentation telling us how you would do it, what you would do, what it would cost us? For just a temporary,
we could do
yeah.
that, we could do that.
Lauren, please?
My question is, the existing lights that we have now, is there any way to reprogram their timing, or we'd have to actually replace
Yes.
them?
All of the, I think almost every traffic signal now is computerized, and you can go in there, actually, we have programs right now, actually, the traffic light at the intersection of River Edge and Jefferson Avenue actually puts on like an extra 10, 15 seconds in the morning from like 7 to 9 to get traffic through. So, and then after 9 o'clock, it goes back to something like a shorter cycle, so you have the ability to adjust it to your needs.
I mean, right now I come down, where am I coming down? Hillside?
Mm-hmm.
And when I look straight across, my light is red, that light's green, the
Right.
next light, and the following light's red. And so no matter what, I have to stop and start 2 or 3 different times in the same one little stretch just to make it to the other side to Washington, to the stores. So right now, is there any way just to, check on the timing and the flow? So what I'm seeing is red, green, red, or vice versa, the exact opposite, but there's not, it should be green, green, green for 30 seconds, then red, red, red for 30 seconds.
You know, it's very funny. Another thing that the borough engineer was talking to me about last night is a computer model. Now, the problem with computer models are they're very expensive. It probably costs us somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 to do a computer model of the entire town, just about every traffic light. And then once you do that, you can program different changes, and it will tell you the impact it has everywhere. It's a valuable tool that apparently is good forever. You only have to do it once. And then any changes you want to consider, it will tell you if you want to change County Road and Highwood, it'll tell you how that impacts all the other intersections. It sounds very interesting, but once again, it's very expensive.
That seems a lot more cost economical than the $1 million or $2 million
It's still
to
be pilot,
overhaul
right?
the
But-
entire light.
Let's wait for Chief to tell us the cost of the pilot, maybe.
Well, hold on, the pilot is just a test to see.
estimate, yeah, I mean, that's what I
But if you
mean.
go along with it, then you face with, again, I shouldn't say that. This was a projection by the engineer. Maybe the cost has changed, maybe there's a way of doing it cheaper or something, but that's what was in the.
Right.
Yeah, well, no, that's fine, but
Chief, if we were to close off Piermont Road, down by Mount Carmel, that would mean the cars have to go in and out the same way, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so now you've got parking, right now you have parking, parallel parking, not diagonal parking.
Diagonal.
You have parallel parking along the railroad station and along Hyler Park, half of Hyler Park.
And it's actually.
That would have to change,
It's
right?
I'm sorry, hold on. It's perpendicular parking.
Perpendicular park.
Perpendicular is on the right, the parking on the east side is actually angled, that just gets straightened, so everything basically, cars just pull in, and they just back out. And actually something, the diagram has that, so it's not a problem. So, and the only question I have, and again, I don't want to get into too much details, it's, when you come out of the lot, there's a stop sign, but there's actually traffic light there for the other direction, so I don't know how that.
Were you
You have to look at that.
Were you here when they made West Railroad one way?
Yes.
Okay, so just a word of caution to the council,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, I
This
remember
was the
that.
first big part of an experiment. It lasted about 2 weeks.
yeah,
The reason
No, it was
being-
longer than that.
Well, it was less than a month.
couple of months.
Maybe-
Yeah,
Maybe a
no,
month.
no, it was a few months, it was a few months.
Well,
It was just under 3 months.
this community is very difficult with change. And anything that we do, regardless of the intent or the long-term impact, is going to be met. You have to be prepared that if we make changes, there's going to be a lot of initial resistance to
surely.
it. And you know, in order to give it a fair shake, because I truly believe what they tried to do would have worked long-term. But there was so much resistance, everybody backed down, and this is...
If I could add to that?
Yeah.
Because I was obviously in the midst of it. It was resistance in the beginning, but toward the end, when they were getting ready to do it, people were getting used to it. And with conditioning, people can get used to
Of course,
anything,
that's
and during
true.
people got used to it, they pulled it away. I just want to point that out.
How many of you are old enough to remember when New York City changed their avenues from 2 ways to 1 way? Or even something more modern, when London did what they did in the center of London. Tremendous amount of resistance, but I drive down in New York now, I can't imagine what it would be if
Be
those
on a
avenues were
two-way.
2 ways. It'd be a nightmare. So, Lauren,
Chief,
please.
have you looked at any other options for basically what I see the commuters coming down county? I mean, I see them going county to Dean, and I face that traffic. That traffic also impedes, I think, middle school and high school drop-off times, because it's all around the same time, 8:30. I see it as I come out of elementary school. That line of traffic, through the town, and unfortunately, they don't wind through our stores. They just kind of, the commuters from the
Northern Valley?
Yeah,
up
Northern
north,
Valley
yeah.
come through,
Right.
and they come through, on Dean to get to the Parkway, the bridge, anything. Any thoughts on what to do with that commuter traffic?
The fact that we're sandwiched up against the Hudson and there's limited roads that parallel that area. I mean, within the town, there's no outlets. I mean, some of the people that are coy enough will go up Hudson and they'll cut through Angle.
Angle, oh yeah, a
Angle
lot of
back up
people
as
do
well.
that.
We've had a long problem, I'm sorry, with speeding on Park and DePeister. We'd almost rather than be down.
We could funnel them into Magnolia and make a left on your street.
I think it's the geography of the town, something, and everyone wants, they're commuting toward the city, and we just happen to be one of those towns that lie in the middle of that.
Yeah.
The real problem is there's just not enough north, south, east, west through streets, and we're stuck with them.
Yeah.
Would you add a lane? Instead of the parking possibly in the center of town, would you add a lane of traffic
To what though? To where?
towards the Dean intersection?
Add a lane
Like,
where?
Parallel to County.
on County Road?
Parallel,
Take away the
yeah.
pilot one.
Well,
That would be
Change how
an
the parking should be.
immense cost,
yeah.
and you're also, you're taking property from people, right?
No, well,
Well, I'm saying if we create the plaza for Hyler and we move it where the current parking is, you're into Lee.
So you'd be cutting down Highland Park, what you're saying?
I'm just asking, is there any opportunity?
But that's only a 1 block span, you're making improvement. I mean, you're not,
Where are
what
they
are you
gonna
gonna do
go?
with all the traffic all the way
where's
up?
it gonna go at the end of
Yeah,
that
right.
lane, end of that block?
Where do you go from there?
Well, I know, and it's the
Yeah.
Dean intersection that's backing it up anyway.
Right. I think the answer was you're supposed to go with a train, I'm just kidding.
Get on your bicycle and go down the green.
The irony of the train was, we really believed, and I still believe this day, that plan as presented would have put more cars on our street and took off. That's the good thing about the Greenway, you can't argue with that. The Greenway will take cars off our street, and, even if it's just recreation cars. But, all right, Chief.
So we're gonna have a plan from you?
I'd be happy to put it together. I mean, you give me some time. I gotta talk to the traffic maintenance people. I gotta talk to the county. I have to talk to NJ Transit because it involves the bus. But I'd like to, for our own purposes, sit and see if we can perform the pilot program, something, and if we do present it to you something, then I'd be happy to carry it out and staff it.
One of the things I'm concerned about is rerouting the buses. Because those buses, when they leave the bus stop now and they have that straight run to West Clinton, it's clean. For them to have to make the left onto Hillside and then a right onto County Road,
Right.
they can do that, but when there's traffic around, quite often they can't make that turn. They have to wait till the traffic moves. This is something that
The plans show that bus traffic, not continuing south past the train station, making a left going east on Hillside and making a right in County. We close Paramount Road by the train station for several things, and we call the bus companies, and they
but
find a way to do
not
it.
doing commuting time.
No, but there's been times, what's been closed before you, something, again, something,
I'm not-
Could there be some issues? But I think it could work.
You know, actually, what Lauren said might be, to a point, there may come a need to eliminate 1 or 2 parking spaces at these corners to make it easier for buses.
Well, that, but
buses to make
also
the
too,
turn.
maybe something, at corners, like cutting corners back. I think the plan calls for that. That's why.
I think there's a
I think you
mention
look
of
at that-
the reducing
I think that's
on
why
J
it costs
Street,
us.
isn't
On
it?
J near where School
J
Rock and
Street,
stuff
yes.
over.
Yes, there's talk
Yes.
of removing
Well,
some on
that's
J
phase
Street.
Make the
two.
buses turn.
That's phase two. I think
Yeah.
phase one, over by the train station itself, they're looking to move that, like an
Corner on
island.
J,
and they're
we'll
looking to
turn
move
that into a
island.
6-11 instead of a 7-11.
So, yeah, so I,
Yeah, just because this has taken so long, and I know it's gonna take a while for this to come to fruition under the best of circumstances, I'm wondering if at least there should be not only discussion with NJ Transit, but the Greenway project, Mr. Rakesh, because those 2 plazas will be right where the Greenway would end up. And at least we don't want to do something and then
Undo it.
6 years or 7 years from now, a year after we complete and go, yay, we have to undo something. So at least maybe we should keep that in the back of our
Very
minds.
good point, Jeff.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, next item is Engle Street commuter parking. Chief, any comments on that?
no, I didn't see this. Okay, this was on the agenda. Thanks to community parking. Well, I think it was brought to my attention, I think Councilman Grossman, you
Right.
said that there was some people that were starting to now encroach a
Right,
little
up
north
by Creston.
of Westerville, right? We had seen that, the traffic bureau was monitoring something, some days, some of the cars were a little closer to that first intersection or something, but is it Creston? Creston?
Preston.
Preston. Some days they're not. If, and Councilman Grossman and I had spoken briefly something, if it becomes a problem, we can obviously push traffic back. He had mentioned some paint, and he's not wrong there, but we don't normally paint cobblestone, so you do that with signs, like no parking here to corner.
With Belgian block curbs? Is that what you said?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's just appears to be the only road or portion of Angle they're encroaching on. We don't see it going a lot farther beyond that at this juncture.
Yeah, I think
But
once
they
you
are
get north
looking
of
at
that, people are not gonna wanna walk that far to the bus stop, but that's probably the last of it. And you said you had also heard from somebody about painting crosswalks. more
Yes,
clearly.
yes. I thought of that.
Separate-
Mr. Ross
separate
or something.
issue.
They're gonna do like I said, but yeah, there's a couple pre-existing crosswalks that need to be painted, but they also want some new ones. And actually, the person wants a crosswalk at every intersection, which I think is excessive.
Excessive.
Well, you're the expert.
Yes.
Yeah, we defer to
You know, I think.
But by law, automatically, every place at the corner street, don't basically there's priority for people that cross the street.
Every intersection is a crosswalk with a marked or unmarked.
Exactly.
You're 100% correct. But the marking, what it does is, people thinking
Pays attention.
it's a visual acuity, something to slow people down, and it does in certain instances. But if you put too many of them in, it becomes white noise, and
Yeah.
people just ignore it.
Have we done any enforcement of cars required to stop for pedestrians in crosswalks lately?
We have, yes, and we're gonna step up now the traffic, I'm sorry, not traffic, now the weather's improving. And we've been doing a lot of radar also too, actually, laser. You've seen the summonses, so we're making strides there. The complaints should be obviously increasing to you, but we're trying to make the community safer, and we are looking to get after the aggressive driving.
Okay, if nobody has anything else for the chief, before he leaves, I was going to read this during mayor's remarks, but with your indulgence, as long as the chief is here, I'd like to read this statement into the record. Several weeks ago, an unfortunate incident was captured on the dash camera of one of our police cars. What was a routine traffic stop turned into a viral circus that reflected poorly on one of our residents, who, for lack of a better term, lost it. Despite the challenge of dealing with an irrational person, 2 Tenafly police officers maintained the highest degree of professionalism, which reflected well on their training and our entire police force. Officers Matthew Savitsky and Tom Casper handled the difficult situation in a manner which drew praise from hundreds of people who viewed the video. I would ask the members of the Tenafly Borough Council to join with me in saluting Officers Savitsky and Casper and in offering them a sincere thank you for a job well done.
Here.
Thanks for reading that. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I'm very proud of him, and something a great example for the town and law enforcement. I'll leave it at that. I've done enough talking about
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes.
and it's not related to anything we've talked about.
Yes.
I'm remembering those, the blinking signs
Yes,
we talked
yes.
about.
Yeah,
Where are we on
They're in
that?
capital, approve the capital.
Right. That's the overview that was in my memo,
Yeah.
just so you understand the process.
Purchased.
Well, they need to be purchased, but remember, we're in the estoppel period.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
so once that's
So
cleared,
we
I'll
use the
move.
estoppel period for planning purposes.
And then beginning of the year, I was talking to Director Rossi, sometime we're going to look to see if his personnel can install them because they're solar powered and don't have direct current, so we can hopefully potentially avoid some electrical labor fees.
It gets very frustrating because no matter what direction we go when we leave town, we see these signs.
Everywhere.
And we are the last
Everywhere.
ones
They're
not
coming.
having them.
They're coming.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Remember Magnolia and Highwood.
Next is DPW
Wait, I'm
Commission.
sorry, I just have one more follow-up.
Sure.
The request for school zone signs to slow down on County Road near and behind Mom's School, was that ever looked into?
I just got some actually for Harold Hamilton. We have a complaint over there.
That's Stillman.
That's still,
But that was-
this
but-
this
but-
would be
right.
on county for all the commuters.
But, I'm sorry, you reminded me. You were talking about school crossing signs, which are there.
This was a slow down, it's a school zone idea, because the commuters coming down county are going behind the school, and there is a crosswalk there where students cross
On County Road.
on county.
Well, that's a location that should be added to our long list of where these bright signs should
Bright
go.
signs.
It's an excellent place for it, so keep that in
With the
mind.
flashing signs or the regular yellow fluorescent
The
signs?
flashing is better, but whatever, we need to put sign, and make sure that there's proper signage on both sides of that crosswalk.
I will look into that.
Now, let me embarrass you for a second, because everybody asked a question, and that's not related to what you came here from. The grade 3 officers in schools, you know my position, that I'm very much against it. Can I have an honest opinion about your position?
I just talked about it at the Community Safety Task
Yeah,
Force.
that's right.
I talked about it last night at the HSA meeting for the middle school. I came out and said that I was for them because I don't know any chief that would be against them. I talked about a lapse in coverage for the purposes of an active shooter, and a minute or two of us responding was the best way to address that, get an armed officer in the school. But I also did follow it by saying that there's a low probability of that ever happening, and I also did indicate there's no guarantee. But I can't be against them for the purposes of what they can benefit a school, and I came out and I said publicly said that any school that has an armed security guard officer is safer than one that does not. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not forcing it down anyone's throat. Talked about it last night. It's not voted upon. Something most will look to provide best safety that we can and better, security plans, and we'll move forward. So,
Well, at this particular point in time, the Board of Education, I believe, has decided that, this is going to be their mission. If there's going to be officers in the school, they'll deal with it. If not, they'll deal with it also.
All right.
Thank you.
I guess it.
Thank you.
you good?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, we have our DPW director here to talk about a DPW commission. First of all, Carl, you've been around the block. Have you been in towns that have had commissions, DPW?
The only one, we didn't have a commission in Clifton when I was director there. We had a DPW committee, and those were basically for budgeting purposes that I would sit down with the committee. And that was, on the committee was the mayor, myself, the city manager, and another council representative and an alternate. And that's the only thing we had as far as committees go. And we would talk about budget, when it came down before budget time, I prepare my budget and I sit down with the committee and explain them my needs, but they would bring it to the council when it came to budget hearing, because I was never really part of the budget hearing process, so that was the purpose.
Mayor, my question is actually to Bill. What's the legal difference between committee and commission for our purposes?
Well, a committee, I think, is a commission has members that are appointed to it, and they generally would have more authority than a committee. A committee comes back and makes recommendations, A commission actually has powers, usually. So let's say commissioners of the Board of Authority, they can actually
can show the badge.
vote on
They can
things.
show the
And
badge.
actually,
We've never had commission of that, or the term commission. We've had committees in the past.
we got the Historic Preservation Commission.
Well, no, I'm
We have
talking
a
about.
police commission,
Oh,
historic
no,
preservation.
but Jeff,
Yeah.
that's different.
Why?
Because the police commission doesn't have those powers.
Right, the police commission, I think, is a misnomer. We called it a police commission,
It should be a
but
committee,
it wasn't
you mean?
really a commission.
And what about the
Commissions have
historic preservation?
Well, those are different. Those are committees of volunteers that the council has given them powers. Well, I'm not sure if it's a council or, Jewel, is it the state that says if you're going to have a historic preservation commission, the state lists
They define what it looks
defines what their powers are, and same with the environmental commission. The same with the recreation commission, which is why a number of years ago, this board, our council decided to change it from a commission to a committee because we didn't feel it was appropriate for volunteers that weren't elected to have the authority that the commission technically had, although they never used it.
A follow-up question. But there is nothing legally stopping us from creating a commission.
No, the governing body
Governing
can
body
create a
can do
commission.
that.
That's what
The question is a commission appropriate for a department, or oversight of a department?
Is there some, that's what I'm asking you, is there something?
We've never had that. We've had committees.
We may not have had it historically, Mayor, but I'm asking, is it something which is not legal or not permitted under state law, or?
No, I think the governing body has the right to create
Okay.
a commission.
Okay.
The question is that if you look at structure, all right, of a municipality, you have the mayor and council as basically like a board of directors, right? And then you have the administration, which would be the borough administrator, and you have the departments below. Where does a commission sit, and what's the authority of a commission vis-a-vis the governing body and the administration?
But if the commission is composed of members of the governing body.
But not the whole
But you don't
governing body.
supplant.
Not the whole.
But a commission can't supplant the authority of the governing
No, of
body.
course not.
So where does it sit in the structure?
What would the purpose of a commission be? You have to, before you decide you want to have a commission, you need to explain what you feel this mission would be, why it would serve a purpose rather than a committee or just the way we're working right now.
Well, pick up on that, but Lauren, you have
My
something.
question is, do we have to, in a commission, is it required to include members of the public outside the governing body? Can it just be members of the DPW in the governing body? What is the requirement?
I don't,
Well,
I'm not aware of any requirements for
We're
commissions.
starting from,
I'm not aware of it.
Bill, we're starting from scratch. So basically, we can shape whatever we want to in whatever manner. Bill will tell us if it's illegal. It doesn't sound like anything we could conceivably contemplate would be illegal. But the question becomes, is it efficient? Is it going to serve us well? I mean,
So let's discuss
it sounds to me that, you're looking to do more than oversee a department, and I don't think any of us are qualified to run a DPW department. So why would we want a commission?
So let's answer that. The DPW department historically used to run pretty well till it basically went, and now we have huge problems with that. And it's not it basically went down right without basically any, the garbage is not collected,
The garbage is not collected by the DPW.
no, around the parks.
recycling?
Around the parks. The bushes are not cut, the grass is not taken care of. The fact that we're cutting the trees without basically putting back additional trees. There are many problems, including other issues related to the management of people that have never been addressed. Not only they have never been addressed, but have been, covered under, see whatever, till you get to a point where we're having problems in town.
So
Now,
you want to manage.
we
the
want to be
department.
able to have together with the governing body, to be able to manage and make sure that specific actions are taken to correct what we perceive to be problems in town.
You're mixing up two particular areas.
Yes.
One is, if you're looking to manage, that's really improper. If you're looking to suggest things that need to be done, you don't need a commission.
I
We
think
could
that
actually
we
do
do.
that now. If the garbage isn't picked up around Sunnyside Park, a call should be made to
No.
the administrator.
The administrator had 20 years
But what are you?
to make sure that that's
What are you
done.
going to do?
I would
You're gonna
basically
pick up
make
the
sure,
garbage?
yes, I'm telling you exactly, you asked me, I'm gonna say, let's establish a schedule of picking up the garbage, and let's make sure that this schedule is gonna be fulfilled.
How are you gonna do that?
We're gonna work with,
You don't think he has a schedule to pick up
I
the
don't.
garbage now?
I don't.
Well, hold on a second. Do we have a schedule to pick up the garbage
Yeah, I
around the
believe
parks?
so, yes.
Everything we do in DPW has a schedule.
Well, let me ask-
If you ask most directors, what you'll find is it's resources. Even when Bob Utel was here, or basically during his tenure, he lost, I think it was 9, 10 positions through attrition. Those positions have never been restored.
Yeah.
And so more oversight without additional resources. The oversight is there. But from a day-to-day basis, one of the challenges that Carl and the general foreman have are basically allocating the resources. Because in spite of the fact that we have very, very specific schedules, every day is different.
Okay.
It depends on who's on vacation, who's out sick, who's on workers' comp. So
me tell
every
you,
day
because
is
I
different.
know
You
that
don't
that's
just,
not
you don't,
true.
you
I know that
manage
that's not
really
true.
from hour
Let me,
to hour.
You know
I went-
what's
You
not-
know what's
Yes,
not
I know
true.
this. Because
What is not true?
I'll tell you in a second. Give me a chance. I went and talked to the previous director, and I said, "What is the schedule of sweeping the town?" I don't have it. He takes the truck in the morning and does sweeping, and when it's finished, I said, "Do you know how many streets are getting swept? How many times you're gonna go?" I don't know. That's not something that I have to worry. Okay, so what is the schedule? So I know that there is no schedule for that. I ask, okay, what about the schedule for cutting the grass around? Well, if we can get to it, we're gonna do it because we have other things. So I know there is no schedule. So what I'm saying is, what is said about the resources, everybody in this world has limited resources. There is no. The issue is that there are no plans that we want to make sure that there are. And then if they cannot be accomplished, then we can look and come back to the council and say, we need the following resources.
Okay, like I said earlier in the meeting, I want to share this floor with other people. Jeff had his hand up and then Dan.
All right, so, my
I'm sorry,
concern,
Bill? I had my hand up.
Jeff, before you start, let Bill respond to
No, one, first of all, what you're talking about is not a commission, because commissions set policy.
That's fine.
Commissions set policy like the governing body
That's what
does. So
we
I don't know where on the organizational chart you would put this.
One-
Basically, what you're saying is an oversight committee.
That's right.
Because you're actually talking about being a manager.
Setting up priorities.
That's really different than a commission. Okay, so basically what you're supplanting some part of the administration work.
Correct, absolutely
Because
correct.
you, basically what you're talking about is saying, I have my own ideas because I see, issue A, B, and C that I'm not happy with the way it's so you're talking about bypassing the governing body.
In a way,
and
yes.
and bypassing the management by saying, this is what I want done.
This is what I think it
so
should be
basically,
done.
you're creating almost like a sub administration for
Whatever you want to call it, Bill.
I'm not saying that that's not possible for doing. But what you're talking about is sort of like an oversight committee
Yeah,
to say,
whatever you want to
I'm
call it.
going to oversee the management and functioning of the DPW.
Yeah.
So, but again, what you're doing is you're supplanting
Some of the authority
some
of the
authority
existing
of the
management.
administration.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's not a committee, though.
Yeah, whatever it is. What do you call
But
it?
you've been trying to do that in so many areas for so long.
Isn't it
We
just-
have an administration, okay?
It's just-
Jeff, please, and then Dan.
all right. So I see it a little bit differently. I mean, what you were talking about, Carl, with some budgetary stuff, I see that as being the central point, but here's why it becomes necessary to have something a little larger. We have, for example, HPC, which has certain needs from your department. We have recreation, which has certain needs from your department. Environmental, that has certain needs. Sometimes we don't know what's being budgeted for what, and I don't think your department knows, and we need to redo around the monument, or we need to redo the railroad station, or we need to clean up Sunnyside. It makes it very difficult from a budgetary point of view for you, and it makes it very hard for us
Just
to
to say something as far as...
but to have, with such a multi-headed hydra, to maybe at least have some policy of what direction this is all coming from, helping to prioritize those, and from a budgetary point of view, to help at least figure out what the budgetary priorities for those different city agencies, or town agencies,
The
departments.
city agencies like the Historical Commission and the Environmental Commission, they have their own budgets as far as goes with what their needs are. If they have a capital project that they're interested in, it comes in during capital. Okay, as far as my involvement with the Historical Commission is try to give them support where they need support, and on the Environmental Commission when they need support. Either the recycling calendar, the new recycling calendar, that was a topic of discussion. Any kind of recycling issues, I'm the liaison for that, for those commissions. Same thing with the Historical Commission. If they have a question or an issue, or they come up to me, ask me to come to the meetings, and we try to take care of it, and I try to guide them along. As far as the work that they need done themselves, they have their own separate budgets, and they come up to the council on their own. So
That's a lot of the capital items, I agree, but if we're talking about cleaning out an area, beautifying around a monument, a park, and they're coming to you, that's in your budget, they're coming to piecemeal. Sometimes you don't know what they want. They don't know that the commons is being cleaned up, but at the same time we need to clean up around a monument, or that Sunnyside needs different things addressed. And I just think it would make it a little easier from a policy point of view to have a little more direction, and that way we could figure out, even for different agencies, I mean, HPC's here, they can speak for themselves, but they didn't know what to put into the budget for some of their things. So I think it boils down to budgetary in the final analysis, and helping to figure out from different points of views, and that a commission might be beneficial to the governance of this town from several different agencies, and help you at the same time to prioritize and figure out some of these things are not necessarily capital.
Dan? How about Bill Boyson? Bill?
No, well, Dan, Dan was supposed to go next, but I have something to say.
Jewel, when I remember Bob telling me he lost his Parks division a few years back, or Bob, you tell him I lost, just through attrition, that division went away.
Correct.
Can we look into what we would need to get that division back, manpower-wise, bodies-wise? If it's 4 bodies, if it's 2 bodies that can do the job, part-timers. I mean, we've looked into seasonal, we've budgeted for seasonals, and that's always helped. I mean, it was supposed to help them, but it wasn't as effective as we would want during leaf season, during spring season, I believe the other season was. I mean, can we look into that perhaps?
Sure.
Maybe,
as far as what, having
Bill and
permanent
then
people?
Lauren.
I'm sorry, Dan.
right, whatever,
Permanent
whichever,
people?
manpower-wise, if it's springtime, you have to cut the grass more. Do we need a part-timer just to do grass? Can we survive with 2?
What I've been doing, and as far as the temp agency that we have for, that, we put into, I guess the council put into place in the fall, last fall.
A few years back, yeah.
Well, what I did was, for this year, also to help with the labor relations side of it, is that I've been hiring, I think I've hired about 3 or 4 already,
Seasonals?
through the temp agency, to work on the back of a recycling truck. That gets our guys off of the back of a recycling truck and working in our, either in parks,
Right.
help plant trees or any other. They get off the truck, they do something else, cross-training, them to do other things. And that's why I've been using the temporary seasonal people there right now.
Bill and then Warren.
Now, I have a couple of comments, but I listened to what Jeff said, and conceptually, what you said, I think is a good idea. Commission's not the way to go. My problem with creating something by way of ordinance is that it sounds to me like what you're talking about is a group of you that are almost going to be hands-on. And you can't say that everyone forever, members of the governing body, are always going to want to be like hands-on people for DPW. I think that a committee that doesn't have the authority to actually instruct people to do, because my question was going to be, what would be the source of your of this body's understanding of what needs to be done? Through personal observation, or from hearing it from residents, or some combination of both? I would think it would be some combination of both. Residents say, "Oh, you know what? This Sunnyside has been messy. They haven't been collecting the garbage," or things where people have complained. Plus, residents of the town, you see things from driving around. So, I think that there might be some benefit to a committee that could say, we've been hearing these complaints, we've been seeing these are things that we think should be done. But you can't make decisions, you can make suggestions, because you can always come back to the governing body and say, we've been hearing these complaints about performance of DPW, or what's happening there, or this conditions in town, and we made suggestions, but it's not doing anything, and this is where things should happen. Actually, the administrators who should be doing things, but if you bring it back to the governing body, they can say to the administrator, you know what, the DPW committee has been hearing these types of complaints and or observing these things. Would you look into it? But I don't think it's appropriate for there to be some level of control at this level through a small committee, because I think it's just contrary to the way the structure of command here. It just doesn't. I don't think it would work that way.
Hold on a second, Max. Hold on a second.
Yes.
Lauren, before you start, first of all, I think what you're trying to do is usurp the authority of the administrator. Right?
Right.
That's what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
You want to be the administrator?
I don't.
Okay. Second of all, I had many more conversations with Bob Culvert, and before that, Bob Butel, the directors of the DPW, than you ever had. And the issues, when you say that you ask what the schedule is and he couldn't tell you, the issue was...
no schedule.
Well, that's not true. The issue was, if you have a guy that's supposed to do the street sweeper on the northeast quadrant of the town, and you have to pull him off that because there's a higher priority somewhere else because somebody's out, that's what kills the schedule. And you're going to find one of two things. You're going to be pulling people off one job to do another job, or you're going to have to hire more people. And Shama may remember, at one time we had committees here, and the reason the committees went away was people didn't like the idea that one or two people knew what was going on in finance and the rest of us didn't. One or two people knew what was going on in DPW and the rest of us didn't. I don't understand. You want to take power away from the administrator, but you only want to put it in the hands of one or two of us. That doesn't make sense.
No, I didn't say that at all. I said
that's
that
what you're
the committee should be made up, in my mind.
Hold on.
You talk to me and say, I'm going to answer, no, the committee should be made out a member of the administration, or the administrator, whatever it is, a member of the mayor, of course, Carl, and two members of the council. So we want to supplement. There are issues that, after maybe you want to talk, so I don't want to take your time, I'll answer that. What are the issues that we need to talk about with the DPW?
So I see this from a little bit of a different perspective. I think that the DPW right now is the one organization in town, like Jeff said, the multi-headed Hydra, that we as the governing body really have no connection with. We can ask you particular questions, I can call in a particular complaint. I've checked in with Lizette while Jewel was out and saying, this resident reported, X, Y, and Z, please check up on this, the curbing, things like that. What I see happening is that there is a very big disconnect, not only between this governing body and the DPW, but as Jeff said, from all of the different groups. I hear from my rec division, I hear from, we were discussing a beautification committee, which is on our agenda for tonight. I hear from residents that, they want our parks and playgrounds to look better, they want our streets to look better, they want, our environmental committee has issues. I just think this is a really good opportunity. I think we're not seeing it in a positive way. This is a good opportunity for us to have a constructive meeting where I see having a commission as having all of these people come together once a month, or once every 3 months, or every other month, whatever you want to put it, and we can discuss these
But
openly.
I think you're talking more about a committee than a commission, because
Well-
a commission sets rules and regulations.
So that's what I would like it to do, actually, because...
Now you change
Well, no, I'm
everything.
not. But I don't want it to just be our governing body. I think the HPC and the environmental and rec and everyone should sit on the committee. And as a whole, we say as a town, we are in charge of various aspects of our town with you and with members of your DPW, if you want to add them into a commission, can set policy that then becomes policy for your department. But it isn't decided just by any one of us. It isn't decided just by the mayor. And it's to assist you. It's not to go against you. I'm not trying to usurp any power from you. I'm not trying to take away administrative power. But I am trying to get the DPW
But there's,
better
I
connected
think there's a
with the town.
confusion here because.
Maybe the two of you should get together, because he
No,
wants to take
no,
power away
no.
from the
When we
Well,
said that the idea
he
is the same.
wants
I want
open
basically to share the
communication.
power,
Open
which is
communication.
in a
Share
way.
what power? That's called micromanaging,
Okay.
actually.
No,
That's-
it doesn't.
I do think that, you're welcome to sit, by the way, Carl, I know you're standing. You're welcome to sit at our table, you're standing. But, the idea is, in my head, that I do want to set policy, because I do think that
Exactly.
the HPC has policy, and the beautification committee, and that policies should be created out of that in a consensus way, a voting situation of people that get to work with the DPW.
The question is, who sets the policy though?
This body
It'll
sets the
come
This
back
body.
to this body, and this body will
Then
then
it's-
set the
Then
policy.
it's a committee. And then
It's a
it's a committee.
Whatever
It's
you
not a
want to call it,
But why
the name
can't
is
they-
immaterial.
But hold on a second, so I'm a liaison to rec. Rec sets policy all the time without having to go through our board, without having to go through our council.
What kind of policy do they
They vote
set?
on things, for
That's
example,
not policy.
they do, I think they have
Well,
votes.
they decide whether they're gonna use white or yellow softballs. That's not policy.
No, Mayor, it goes way beyond that. It affects
Well, I
things
know, I
whether-
was on rec commission before you
Okay.
moved into town. I
That's
understand
fine.
what they do.
Are you
and-
giving me the opportunity to speak?
Yeah, but you know what? There's a few people at this table that don't understand what a liaison is.
Okay.
And misquoting, I've never heard environmental commission say anything about that they should need to be part of a DPW committee.
But wouldn't it be
HPC,
helpful?
I don't think.
Wouldn't it be helpful? Wouldn't it be helpful to connect these resources? Wouldn't our town benefit from this connection? Instead of looking at this as such a negative thing, we are not trying to look at it as a negative thing. We are hearing from numerous residents, each one of us, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking to you, that there are issues here. And we, as a governing body, are trying to address those.
That's the whole
We are
idea.
not trying to take Carl's responsibility away. We're trying to give Carl a better access to our
So
different
then
aspects.
you will form a committee that can meet every a month or every 2 months, whatever, and sit and talk about the complaints that we all get from.
It's
which-
not
No, it's
about
not
the
a complaint.
complaint.
Well, and you want to make changes, she said, based on complaints that
But
she
that's
Based
an
on-
said.
example.
It's
That's an example.
Basically, it's a
Can I
set
say,
of
Mayor,
policies.
the thing is, DPW is the face which everybody sees in town. Not as, they may not know it's DPW, but everybody sees the streets, everybody sees the park. That's the first thing that hits
okay,
everybody.
face of our
I'm hearing the loudest voice say, we want to set policy. Policy is set by this board, not by individual committees and commissions.
But,
Okay.
Bill,
Bill?
I think, I'm hearing something different. I'm here, although I hear them saying, people saying, that they want to set policy, it sounds to me like you want to make management decisions, not set policy, management decisions. I want this done, I
no,
want that done, as opposed to making suggestions saying, this is what I think, how I want the department to run. That's really seems to be, what you're talking about is to make a super management decision. A management decision, if it's not binding, if you can't say, this is what should be done, then it's a committee.
I haven't.
If you're saying, this is what we would like to be done, we're hearing, this is our suggestion, after getting together and listening to residents and our own observations, that's a committee. Commissions have power to make policy, and you're talking about some management oversight.
Let me use an example.
Body.
Here's the difference that I see. The commission gets together with DPW, for example. We had a huge rainstorm very recently. Storm cleanup, easy. Affects our entire town, affects our downtown businesses, affects our residents, affects this borough. Storm cleanup, large trees, muds, there were some mud issues with some property. I know we have a resident tonight saying what a good job our town has done on things like that. The policy that I see would come together is when there is a storm, the following groups are going to react to it. The DPW, the beautification, the environmental.
What beautification? We don't have.
Let Lauren
Let's go
finish.
I'm trying to understand what she's talking about.
So now we're setting a policy. Here is the issue at hand, storm cleanup. The policy going forward will be, we are going to have a storm cleanup protocol.
Exactly.
And this commission will come up with a protocol. The protocol then goes to Jewel and Carl to actually put into place and manage.
So it doesn't go to the governing body?
Well, it's,
We can go through the gallery, it's
to vote
immaterial.
on. I'm
Well,
saying
it's
this
not
is,
immaterial.
It is.
So
It is.
the
The idea is
professionals
to have
don't
the
get
power
to assess
Well,
the
that's what I was
situation.
gonna say, isn't that what you hired
establish
Carl
the
for?
plan,
the professionals will be on the commission,
being told what to do.
being part of the decision on how to react to the issue.
That's what we do every day.
No,
But it's not
hold
getting,
it, hold it,
It's not
hold it.
getting
it's not getting
the
done in an
results
effective
we
way right now.
Yeah.
need, and we don't know
The
why.
fact that we don't recognize that we have a problem, it's the first issue, that's why
I
we need a
agree.
commission. Because we don't recognize ever that there is a problem. Always, we also do that, it's perfect, never everything that's
Nothing
good.
is ever going
So-
to be
so
perfect. We
that's-
don't even expect that, but at least as close to what we would like to see.
Excuse me, but 90% of our job is problem solving. That is all we do. So to hear someone say that we don't know that we have problems when that's 90% of what we deal with, believe me, if things are running smoothly and efficiently and effectively, we've done our job. We've put that into place. Essentially, all we deal with are problems.
I'd like to hear Carl's take on the idea of this body coming together.
My idea is if you have a committee, I think that's fine. To come up with issues that we have in town, that's fine. But as far as the commission goes, then I'm torn between working for Jewel, working for the mayor, or working for this commission, because who would become, basically, who do I report to?
Yeah,
Do I
and we
report
have to
the commission?
establish that, absolutely.
So I
So-
think
so-
The
You should
borough
have-
code establishes
I know,
that,
but
which
that's
is
the whole thing.
listed
And you
right
have to
on
change
your
the code.
memo.
Yes.
I have an example. So the environmental commission is in charge of the garden, the green team. When spring kicked in late this year, they needed topsoil done, and DPW took care of some aspects of cleanup and trimming and whatnot. It wasn't Carl, get on this week. It was Carl, when you have time, can you send the guy to finish this project out? It's not, you don't want to micro him, because now you're
No,
gonna
of
Nobody's
course
even-
not.
nobody
Nobody
is
wants to
talking.
do that.
Nobody tells
Nobody's
you
even
when to do it, but the idea of, we would like the DPW to be in charge of the spring prep for the greenhouse. That is the policy. Then it becomes the
And it's up to
DPW and the
him.
It's a
administrator.
management issue
To
that
manage.
Carl has
That's
to
already
take
in
care of.
place.
Well, I'm saying that's one example in place, but I think we need more
What
policy.
what I believe might be constructive and might work is a committee made up of Carl, Jewel, myself, and one or two council people, meeting on a monthly basis or every other month, and setting priorities for the DPW. And if if Carl comes back and says, I can't do this unless I take away from, then we have to go to the governing body
Exactly, that's
and say,
it.
look,
And find the
this
solution.
is,
Exactly.
this is the dilemma.
The thing you have to understand, because you seem to think that we don't have any structure, we have a very detailed management plan for every single department that establishes what happens on an annual basis, a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, a weekly basis, and a daily basis.
This is a
The
different place.
So the work is already
Well,
done.
Jewel-
Essentially, perhaps what the committee can do is the committee can review that with us and you can discuss priorities, but please stop giving the impression that there's no structure and there's
Well,
no
no.
planning and there's no
No,
organization.
Jewel, this is what I think is fueling this and empowering this. Our roads are falling apart.
Exactly.
The town is not as clean as we'd like it to be. The parks are not as clean as they'd like it to be. It's very visual, and in some cases, pickups are, I believe that this could be a positive thing, but not if we're going into this looking to manage the
Exactly.
DPW. We need to guide them and give them,
Priorities,
basically be their eyes and
policies.
ears.
Yeah.
And let Carl know at these meetings that these are the areas of deficiency that need to be corrected. And it's his job either to correct them, or, with obviously the two of you, or to give us a sense of what tools you need in order to do a better job. Because I share your dissatisfaction. My response is a little quieter than yours, but I share your dissatisfaction. I understand where you're coming from. I think the question becomes, do you understand the limitations that we have put on the DPW over the years, Shama? Because we've taken away their tools.
And that's what we
Fair
can.
enough, and that's why with working with this committee, the committee, I don't know, I'm still
Well, I
fuzzy
think-
on the
I think-
details.
I care what
This
you call
body,
it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think the name
This
committee fits
body,
better. Commission gives a sense of
I
a
think
different structure.
Doesn't matter what you call it.
if they
It's
come
gonna
back
do
to
the
the
same
governing body and they say, look, we've tried very hard to do X, Y, and Z, it cannot be done unless you approve this or disapprove this. That's what has always been lacking, like you said, none of us really know.
What I'd like to do in this particular case is speak with each one of the members of the governing body in the next week, put together a committee with at least one, probably two of you, and set up a
This has to
meeting.
be done by the council, Mayor, because it was a council's initiative, and we would like to, Max and Lauren have said, I think you, Jewel, Carl are natural members of the committee, commission, whatever you're calling it, and I think the council will select which members of the council will go on
One
it.
to each
That is how I see it. I don't know how
EDA
anybody
should
else
be
sees
on
it.
it.
I think that you should be on that committee.
Definitely.
Yeah, because
You don't want an environmental district, you don't want to see
Well,
an
here's
environmental,
the,
EDA,
you know,
HPC.
we can only have a mayor and two people, because otherwise it's a
It's a
quorum.
quorum
Yeah.
issue, yes.
So, but the problem with Jeff is that Jeff works.
Yeah, but
Doing
only,
business.
I actually have outside baseball season better availability. I don't work summers and I have weeks here and
Okay.
there that.
So
And
we'll-
then I
we'll-
think Max
we'll
should
try-
be on it. I will propose Max, and I don't know how the rest of the council will vote, but I think Max,
I give it to you.
What, I mean, who would be included? Because I'm thinking in my
Yeah.
mind,
He sits on.
if you want to create some kind of, I would say commission or committee.
Whatever.
It's going to be like could say, hey, this is the joint borough, improvement
We're gonna
commission,
count on you
or
to-
joint borough improvement committee, and you'd want members from environmental, from HPC, ADA, to say, get together regularly
Hold on.
and meet and say,
Dan?
May I suggest before this first committee meeting takes place, Jewel, can you get us the old table of the organization where before we lost all these bodies?
I don't think there's anything to do
Well,
with
the,
that.
the table itself
nothing to do
doesn't
with
change,
that.
the people
That
just
doesn't
go
change,
away.
yeah.
The structure remains in place.
But there's gonna be
It's just that it's, huh?
There are going to be vacancies.
No, I
that's-
think what would be
that's-
helpful is go back to when we had a Parks Department,
That's
and
what I
give us
mean.
a sense of
The
all the
vacancies.
positions that were at DPW when there was a Parks Department.
But why does that have to hold up the formation of the
It doesn't,
Simultaneously.
no,
It can
I'm
be done
not
simultaneously.
suggesting
Yeah,
that.
my question, can I say something to your,
I like that.
about the different groups coming to it? Can the first initial group, which is this 4 people, 5 people, get together? And then they can be responsible for reaching out to other groups and
I
asking
agree.
for
Otherwise,
nominations.
it's too unwieldy.
Otherwise, it's too unwieldy.
Exactly. No, you're
And
absolutely
even
right.
more than that, rather than have them as permanent members, it can be like one meeting, you'll have somebody from historic preservation come, you can discuss with them. And, leave that option open to yourself. Otherwise, you may have quorum issues, otherwise you may have an unwieldy group. A smaller group is more likely to actually
I agree.
have things happen.
You don't have to have
We
that
should
many people,
basically-
but
No.
a representative of each of the major.
May be called upon.
Groups.
Don't have to be present at the meeting.
Well, you're not
They're
gonna
welcome
make
to-
them show
they're
up, but,
invited.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Can
And
we
then would
count
that-
on you to structure
Like,
a
if there's
structure
an
like
issue,
that?
then HPC
See, because
To put
You have to,
Bill, what will happen is if you have all these people
I'm gonna
coming.
make it up myself. If you want me to make it up myself, I'll do it.
Nothing's in there.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, to put together a structure like that for the
That'd be a
town.
good discussion on that.
Yeah, right, yeah, okay, well, I said that anyway.
What?
You know, a committee.
Yeah,
you know,
whatever is the structure you need
I mean, what you
to
call
do.
it doesn't really matter.
I mean, what you, I really don't, you know, all I'm saying is that they, and if they want to set policy, then they set
Okay, let's
policy.
move on.
Like joint,
Can I
like
just add
joint
one
use,
thing?
what is
Yes.
joint use?
If we do
Both
have,
sides of a
just
joint
to
use.
keep in mind, if we do have members of the recreation committee.
No, we're not gonna-
No, we're not having people,
No, all right.
no,
Okay.
no,
Then-
because I think you can
Because that's a
call
little bit
upon
too
them
much for
as
them.
necessary.
It's already
No,
No,
volunteer
no,
time.
no.
We can reach out to them.
Yes.
That, the rec committee right now, then we need to seriously consider another parks division, because right now rec is in charge of our parks and playgrounds. Well, of course, I'm giving you props. I think we need to look into then recreating a parks and
That's
playgrounds division.
that's what this committee should be
Yeah.
prioritizing and looking into, commission, committee, whatever it is.
And that's
So,
why I
just so
said
we're
rec,
clear.
Yeah,
not just
let's-
field.
let's-
You guys are going to meet first
Yeah.
and get some idea of what you want to do. I'm
I
not
think
doing
it-
anything until you.
No, no, no,
Should
no,
we vote-
with
do
the
we need to vote
policy.
on this tonight?
Yeah, we have to vote on it.
Well,
We have
we have to
to
vote.
nominate our members.
all
We have
about-
to
If
vote
you're
on it.
gonna, if you're going to establish another layer, then you also need to look at what you're doing now and avoid duplication. I mean, Carl is now attending every environmental commission meeting, every green team meeting. He attends ADA meetings upon request. He attends HPC meetings on request. If you're going to establish a new entity and a new body, then he should be relieved of having to attend all
Well,
of these interim
these meetings will be
meetings.
taking place during the day, so he will not have extra.
It would not be an
Yeah.
evening
No,
meeting.
we were
No,
trying
he'll
to,
just be pulled away from.
It doesn't matter, it has to be done no matter what. I
Well,
mean, this
committee's gotta
committee,
take
this
control.
group
let's
will
let's
have to be
establish
formed.
the rules of the committee so
Let's
you can
first-
write. We have to do it now so we don't get 3 times
Yeah.
over, you know. Basically, it's a committee that's gonna be comprised of the mayor, administrator, director, and 2 council
Two
people.
council people,
Then,
which the
yeah.
council will select.
Yeah, then we will basically have to look at priorities and policies for the DPW. And we'll be reaching out to all the other interested parties to
And the
understand that.
committees and
Yeah, all
commissions.
the other
They're
parties.
welcome to.
Yeah, to understand what do they need and create a list of things that need to be done. And then there are other things that we can discuss because there was
I
something.
would just warn you from past experience,
Yeah.
knowing the personalities involved, that when you say, we're gonna reach out to these other groups and find out what they need.
Yeah.
Okay? You know, you can make all the promises in the world, but, you know, maybe it's better you wait till they tell you rather than ask them what they need.
Whatever, the idea is that we're gonna be the central point for the needs to be, come to us.
The nice
You know, we like to have a 0% budget, but you're pushing people to ask for things, and the end result is, where are you gonna get all this money? Where are you gonna go to all these resources to do these things? I agree with most of what you said about the needs.
Yeah.
The problem becomes, how do we do it?
Yeah, but that's what we're gonna look at, that's why the committee is gonna be so
Okay, but
important.
I'm merely suggesting that recreation runs very well.
Yeah.
The Environmental Commission runs very well. The HPC runs very well. We don't need to go to them and ask them for a wish list at this particular point in
No,
time.
that's not the
because you-
idea.
Well, that's not
That's
what
not the
what I
idea.
what I just heard is, we're
No.
gonna ask them what they, we're gonna ask
No,
them what
we're
they
that's
need.
not what I think.
we're gonna
Discuss them.
understand their needs. We need to understand and make a decision if we're gonna use, to do that or not. But we need to understand what the community needs. And they are here to be our ears and, you know, and eyes of the community. We don't have to take every single one of them and say, we're gonna do them all. We'll decide ourselves, you're gonna be part of it, if it's worth or not. But we need to understand the eyes and ears of the community.
And the other thing is, this actually gives the public and all the heads of our other departments and committees the opportunity to come to us. Where right now, I don't think they have that. They have to individually call Carl or send an email or call Jewel or bother somebody, and that takes time.
Well, do you ever get the feeling that it might be more efficient if the chair of the HPC or the chair of the Environmental Commission, if they need something, if they speak to Jewel or Carl, that's probably more efficient than
Not
waiting to come to one of our meetings and where we hash it out.
Well, then I wouldn't be looking at this, Mayor, I wouldn't be looking
Yeah.
at this.
Yeah, well,
I
you can
mean,
look at it, you can look at it till the cows come home.
That's outside Angelique, all this
Yes.
garbage, so as much and as good intentioned, I think that this also gives a public forum, and I think that's very important here for not only the HBC, but for everybody else to come and have discussions and be, you know, able to present things like this, and not just also.
Just to let you know, that's not a DPW issue.
Yeah.
Okay,
That may not be.
And that's what the
No, no, no,
Yeah,
that's-
And that's a good
great.
answer.
Let him
That-
know.
That's a good
why it
answer.
requires
That's a good
discussion.
answer.
Code enforcement
And like
issue.
I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a
But
good answer.
this is a good point then to
We should
bring
find
up-
whoever's property, wait, that's our property.
This is our.
No, but it
but-
tells you that we need
But the
to.
tenant.
We didn't put it there, the tenant
Yeah.
put
The
that
tenant
there,
put it
and they
there.
have a
He's
lease
very-
that says that they're not supposed to do certain
Yeah,
things. But-
so we should
but-
enforce that
but,
lease.
If the committee that you're talking about forming is not an ad hoc committee,
Yeah.
the council doesn't really have the authority to create ad hoc committees. You have the right to say, we want an ordinance that says that this is going to be a committee and this is how.
Bill, I have no problem with this committee. Let's move on, all right?
But I want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah,
Yes.
but then don't ask
Bill,
me
what he has to
to
say.
do it.
Bill,
Because if I'm
Bill,
with-
Bill, I'll work with you on it. We'll get
No,
this.
no, I want to
No,
hear
I
it,
wanna
Mayor.
hear what
I
Bill
want to hear it.
says.
What
Well,
are
he's
you
not-
saying?
I'm,
Oh, go
what I'm
ahead.
saying is that you're telling me what you want.
Yeah.
All right, but I don't create ad hoc committees.
Okay.
What I do is I
Yeah.
write
Write in the ordinance.
ordinances.
Yes.
It would have to be an ordinance,
Yes.
if you're going to insert it into the code to tell, this is how the members of this committee will be appointed, just like
Fine,
other things.
fine,
But-
that's
but-
fine.
But you can't, but since you're not yet settled on what this committee is
I
and
think
who's
we
No,
going
we
to be
are.
on
I
it.
think
We are. We are.
It
The
did
two
sound
members of
like
the-
you were gonna make a committee to make a committee.
No, 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 no,
I
no.
think
We need
that-
a
Two council members whom we are going to nominate right now, Carl, Jewel, and the mayor, and that's it. The administrator, the director, and the mayor, and that's it.
And they basically will look at the and establish the policy of what the.
Yeah, that's the committee. And then they can invite people if they need to talk to people from environmental. Am I saying it
Yeah,
right?
no, you're doing perfect.
Yeah,
They-
at the
they don't
first
have to
meeting,
be
we can
members.
decide. At the next meeting, maybe we'll have the chair of the HPC.
Yeah,
or the
exactly.
chair- Or recreation, or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
So
All
is
right.
it-
And you know
so
how
Bill-
often does this
Yeah.
committee?
Bill, do you need a
Writing the
vote?
ordinance? Or you want us to
Do you
write the
need a vote?
ordinance?
No, you aren't thinking about what an ordinance requires for that.
Maybe you can help us to think.
Do we need a
Bill,
vote to follow
Bill,
this?
Bill,
No, you don't
Okay.
need to vote on
Bill,
anything
when
right now.
I established a outside finance committee, okay? I established that, there was no vote, I just
That's
established
just
this.
an ad hoc committee.
Well, this can be an ad hoc committee, what's the difference? It's a committee, it doesn't matter.
I don't know. I don't know. We should have a
What is the difference,
ordinance,
John?
right?
Yeah.
Why do you want to
No,
do it?
if you're doing an ordinance, it needs a lot more than that. It needs a whole procedure on when they're appointed, what the term is, how they're appointed, who appoints each member. All that has to be in an ordinance.
You know, this can be very similar to the Transportation Committee, where once a year, I take advisement from the members of the governing body, find out who wants to be on the committee, and do it.
Okay.
Or myself or whoever else is mayor.
The more important thing is to establish that this political committee will basically, commission, whatever you want to call it, will have basically establishing the policies of the DPW and coordination and establish priorities. Those are things that are important. The rest of
You
them
just said
are.
establish policies.
Yes.
It can't be a policy that's the job of the governing body, not a committee.
Okay,
Well, commission
recommend policies to the government.
Recommend policies, perfect.
to the governing body, and basically follow on the recommendation and ensure the implementation.
You're not listening to me, but whatever.
Well, tell us what you want to
No,
try.
because you're acting like that I specify that just out of the blue. When I write things, it has to be, codified somewhere,
Okay.
all right?
Bill, you present something at the next meeting, and
So-
we'll look
Yeah,
at
exactly.
it and be done with it. Okay? we'll make changes if we have to, or approve it if we
Next.
like.
Now, wait a minute, are we going to appoint, is the council going to nominate people for the committee right now?
Yes.
I just anointed Max and Jeff.
I appointed Jeff.
But going forward, is it going to be a mayoral appointment or a?
It should be a council appointment, because the council has come up with this initiative, it should be council
The
appointment.
council doesn't make these appointments.
If
It just
it's a-
doesn't. Don't worry about it. You know, Shama, I've been doing this 15 years. I've never done anything without the approval of the council.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Really?
We'll look at that when you come back.
However, I may
So it
make
should
an
be
exception
mayor
with the
with approval of the
beautification
council?
committee.
Don't you drive
Yes,
that
mayor
one.
with approval
I'm
of
pretty
council.
enough experience.
Mayor with approval of council
It's always like that.
appointment, is that how it works?
It's always like
Yeah,
that.
just
Advice and consent?
All right, all right, all right.
Okay.
I'll talk to you about it tomorrow.
Okay.
next thing.
You talk to whom?
No, I'm gonna talk
No,
to Lauren
we have a
tomorrow.
call on
We have,
the
we're
top
gonna have
ordinance
a conference
anyway.
tomorrow.
Which you can take off the agenda because we're not getting to it today.
Which one is that?
The vacancy
Carl
property,
we're-
that's
Okay,
Shade tree
that's
management.
done.
Okay.
Okay, shade tree, next.
Shade tree management program, okay.
Right now, we're in the midst of planting 50 trees in the spring.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, we're getting the trees, we actually started today, the weather finally broke, so we're starting today. Hopefully by the end of the spring, at least 50 trees. If we can do more, we'll do more.
Carl?
Our goal is to do at least 50 trees.
How much do we have in our shade tree fund or our tree
I got
fund?
it.
70,000.
68,000 something.
I know all those numbers, I know numbers.
Okay, but Carl, a number of years ago,
61,835.
ago, we hired an outside contractor to plant trees, because you guys just didn't have the time to do it. Do you believe that makes sense to consider doing that again? This money is just sitting there, it's supposed to go to planting trees. What would it cost us to plant 100 more trees?
100 trees by a contractor, because they've done this in Englewood. We hired an arborist to do the locations and inspect the trees being planted. Outside the arborist's consulting fee, because he set up everything, it was about, for 100 trees, about $32,000 to $33,000.
Would the council want to consider that?
Yeah, absolutely. How many trees are we in the?
What kind of trees? What size trees?
Depending on the location,
Are we talking about something that's definitely gonna, we plant 100 of them, 70 of them aren't gonna die in a year?
No.
Well, that's why they're inspected.
That's why they're inspected, and
So-
they put gator bags around them, we
Carl,
water.
we are 120 trees behind in the town trees.
How are we 120 feet behind?
Yeah, because we look at the numbers that you reported last time.
It's
Numbers I
down
know.
from 600, so it feels a little.
No, 600 was all the other trees, but the municipal
We're,
trees.
from 2014 to 2017, we're up 116 trees.
No, that's, look at the cut trees. I'm gonna go in.
No, I would suggest to the council that we ask Carl to bring up something to the next meeting, a plan to plant 100 trees. If we can do it in the spring, great. If not, in the fall.
I have a question. I was always under the impression that you don't plant new trees in the hot months like May, June, or June, July,
June,
August.
July, and August.
So, if we don't get the planting
Well, we're
done
doing it now.
now, we almost have to wait till the fall or else they won't take.
The thing is, for us to do it in the fall is difficult because of the leaf season, and all our resources goes towards picking up leaves, and manpower goes towards leaf season.
So what I'm saying is I
Well-
would want to wait a whole nother month for us to make a decision on this because we will lose that.
Well, the 100 trees we can plant in the fall.
But
He's saying he can't in the fall.
I
No,
can't.
he can't, but we can take that
We can hire the
tree fund
outside.
money and hire an arborist and plant 100 trees in the
But
fall.
right now, we plan to plant 50 trees this spring, so.
So the
I'm gonna go
100 will
ahead
be,
with that.
That's fine.
the 100 will be
Absolutely.
additional?
Huh?
The 100 will be additional to
Yeah,
this 50?
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's
Because
good.
the 50 trees
Yeah.
that you're planting now are not using the tree fund money, right? You
Yes,
just-
no, they are,
They are.
yes.
So when you finish planting 50 trees, how much of the money is going to be left in the tree fund?
I have to take
Will it be
a look
enough
at
to cover the
It
100?
should be,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Because in the meantime, that's replenishing as well from the developers, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
That's constant.
Warmer outside,
Yeah.
probably.
Not a business.
But Max, what I envision this
That's a good idea.
DPW committee doing is doing things like this. This money has been hanging around for years.
Absolutely.
We can prioritize
We have violent
things.
agreement.
Okay.
So,
All right, next item is the Tenafly Railroad Station
They
update.
just
with-
took a tree down across the street from me too. You guys.
Oh, wait, before we move off trees,
I got it, whatever.
I had
So close, you get so
consulted, I had consulted with somebody who goes through towns, he had done this in Lodi, and looks at the health of existing trees for things like, bugs and funguses and bacteria and whatever's taking trees down. Some of our old beautiful trees, I know in my area, are affected with whatever's turning everything red, which I believe are fungus.
Yeah.
And there was a person who does tree consulting. I don't know if anyone would be interested in that. He has a company called Healthy Trees. He's done this for other boroughs, and he goes around and tries to preserve and save.
I think let Carl take a look and
Do you
make
wanna
a
speak
decision.
with-
Do we have
Yeah.
anybody with that expertise in DPW?
We do. We have the tree foreman who has expertise on that.
So then,
And I'm looking to get my certification on that also.
so that'll be great.
Good. If you are interested, if anyone's
You're
interested
the
in
one.
this, it's not a free service, I will say that. He does come with a cost, but he would go around to all our borough trees and treat any trees that would have anything, whether it's bugs or fungus, or things that would take them down.
Let's first see how much money will be left in that tree fund,
Okay. I'm just
after the 150 trees.
Is that all for the tree management?
That's it.
Well, you
Now,
still
where
on the
you-
hot seat, hold on.
No, I know.
We're doing the railroad next?
Railroad, Cafe Angelique.
Problem is, if we have a tree doctor go around, he may tell us to take a lot more trees down.
He's very much against
I'd rather
taking
leave
trees
them
down. He's much for saving the trees.
Okay, let's move on to the railroad station update. Carl, I know there were a series of problems there.
Feel that, yeah.
Yes, as Karen is here, she did expand on that, and I'm here to help her out.
Karen, you want to just, sit over here. Sit.
So, the HPC resolved last year to do inspections of both the train station and the monument. We felt that problems that we were noticing over a period of years were not being addressed, and not for the fault of anyone, but like any building, things creep up on you, and so we felt it was prudent to do a more formal review. We had done this anecdotally or sort of in an occasional way at the HPC using our members' knowledge, because we always have a Class A member who's an architect, and so we had produced a report back in 2015 that resulted in the work that you all did on the station last year. And in the process of all that, we resolved to do annual inspections. And so this year is the first year that we appropriated the money last year. This is the first year, or we asked, we included that in our budget planning. And this is the first year that we were actually able to move on that. And so at the same time, we brought in Tim Adrians, who did the repairs last year, to do this inspection. And we talked to the cafe manager. The owner was not there. We crawled up actually into the crawl space above the attic, which is above the dining room. And we happened to be there on the day of that driving rainstorm last week. And so we observed immediately what you've read in your report, which is there was an active water leak. It was enough water that it was actually running through the attic space and down into the dining room, and the tenant had to put a bucket in the center of the dining room to collect water. And it was a fairly rapid leak that was building up. And then while we were in the attic, the tenant also mentioned that there had been water problems at the other end of the attic space. And while it was not the volume of water that we saw in the first place, the chimney was wet, the bricks were wet, the wood around it was saturated. And so it was clear that there was a water issue there as well. I was able to get, so Tim Adrians unfortunately has retired. He wrote a very extensive report, and he's still working as a consultant, but he's retired from active construction work.
You might explain what his role was previously.
So last summer, he was hired by the borough to make a number of repairs to the overhang. And those pendants, he calls them, that are hanging down, he actually, over a period of weeks, created sort of this custom-made flashing that went on top of the projecting parts of those pendants, because they were just wood, so water and ice and snow would just sit on the wood, and over a period of years, since the major restoration that occurred in the 90s, that wood had started to rot. And there was also some problems with the box gutters had not been cleared often enough, and so just the accumulation of leaves caused water to accumulate in those box gutters, and that also created some rot in the box gutters. And so he did all this work. He was very good about, like, he would come and set up at 4:30 in the morning so that he could get a chunk of work done before the first coffee customers came in the morning. He was very good about working with the cafe and blocking off certain areas. And for those of you who don't know who Tim Adrians is, he's worked in this area for probably 25 years. He has a very strong reputation for historic preservation. He actually worked next, he was telling me the other day, he's been doing this since he was 12, when he worked with his father, and he's probably 60 now. But talk to anyone at the county level, I'm sure Mr. Hogan knows of him. He's actually chairman of the Closter Historic Preservation Commission as well. But the caliber of his work is bar none, and there's not too many people today still that do the type of work that he does. So we brought him in to do this inspection. He made a number of recommendations for how this work should be done, and in response to an email that Jewel had sent me asking for a more clearly defined scope of work, Tim said that he could certainly write that scope of work. It's a large amount of detail. He said that that he didn't include as much detail as he might have in the scope of work that was produced for this previous bit of work last summer, because a lot of it was in his head. But if he was writing it for someone else to follow, he would write it in much greater detail. And he gave as an example even a project he did in another town somewhere in Bergen County. It actually ran to 300 pages.
Whoa.
So it's not a small thing. I think his hourly rate is extremely reasonable, but you can imagine to write something in that detail will take many hours. And that's really to address the cupola, because I see this in two parts, and I think Carl would agree with me that we see this as two problems. You have an immediate problem that really must be dealt with right away, which is the roof leak. And the reason for that, the roof leak.
Okay.
The roof leak, for any number of reasons, which are kind of, I think, probably pretty obvious. You have a danger to patrons, so it affects issues of liability. Where it's leaking in, it's a faux chimney. So I noticed that we have this model here. You see the cupola in the middle. This is not to scale, but so the cupola looks larger than it really is in relation to the rest of the structure. But these little chimneys, there's a little chimney here on this side that is actually much larger if you go over and look at it, and there's one on the other side. And it goes through the roof, and then there's some distance under the ridge of the roof, and then it sits on a wooden beam. So it doesn't go all the way down into the dining room, or into, I guess, the other side where it might be a bathroom or something. It sits on a horizontal beam, and that is getting wet. And according to Tim, and I can only rely on his evaluation, he said that this is already starting to set in. You know, it's not a danger now of collapsing, but to continue to let this roof leak drip onto this wood and saturate the wood, this assembly compromises then the rest of the assembly up there, and there's not, there's an attic space under it, and then there's a dining room with the public eating their meals. So water and wood never do well together. And so I got Brady Roofing to come today to give me a ballpark estimate, so I have something to tell you about, and he estimated that just to address those small chimneys is $3,600. And what he would do is go up, and we want somebody like Brady, because we need to make sure they don't actually walk on the slates. You don't want to have just any old roofer go up there and start, or construction contractor go up there and start walking on slates. And Brady Roofing has extensive experience with slate roofs, and they have the correct ladders that they put up there, and then they actually walk on the ladder, and his guys are trained not to step on the slates, and there's a certain way if any slates are loose that you have to hook the slates.
So this is just for the around the
So
chimneys.
I don't have a detailed picture of the chimney, but essentially the repairs are, he would go up there and he would check all of the mortar between all the bricks to make sure it's intact, because we saw where the water was coming in. It's on the corner of a chimney. And so where you have these bricks, you have a band of sort of bluestone that projects out, and it's creating a little shelf. And we think that the water is sitting on top of that shelf. And we think that when he gets up there and gets up real close to that chimney, you're gonna see that the mortar is cracked. There's also copper flashing around the base of the chimney that's been constructed correctly, but it's probably loose and just needs to be caulked. So it's $2,400 for the one chimney and $1,200 for the other. And what that includes is, and he will write this up in a proper scope of work and a proper proposal. This is just a number for you all to wrap your heads around. But
That's a very expensive number for a chimney seal.
So you'll see the exact detailed proposal, I'm sure, at your next meeting, or if you give the borough administrator and the DPW the power to make that decision. But what he verbally said to us also is that there's a new product on the market that will actually seal, it's a clear coat that will seal the chimney. So he's not just he's not just caulking and repointing some of the mortar. He's going to be sealing it with this rather expensive clear coat. And of course, in this case, it's probably not the materials. I think most of your cost is in the labor.
I have a question.
Because it's not so easy to set up and get up to the top of that roof.
Fixing those two chimneys in the manner you've described will take care of the roof leak? Is that what it will address totally?
Yeah, that's the
because
goal.
that's the immediate
That's the immediate
problem.
goal, yes.
Okay.
Carl, what do you think that if you will have to do it?
Us?
Just as a question, if you will have.
Well,
I don't
first
have-
they
I don't
ask if they're qualified.
I don't,
Yeah, you don't have anybody
Yeah.
to.
And I don't have the equipment to do it either, you know.
You know what?
So I've been in Cafe Angelique actually recently, and I was there one day with Karen, and the mayor was there the same day, and you could, on a rainstorm day, you can actually see water from the main dining room into the roof, and the manager that we spoke with actually said, it is here, it's coming down, and, I have an older house, and I know if you don't take care of these things the right way, if you kind of skimp on it, six
I
other
agree.
problems
I
fold
totally
out.
agree.
Well,
And
there's
it's-
also,
it's-
we gotta make sure it's done right, because this is a
Yes,
historical
this is
building,
not
too.
something,
It's not,
like you said, any contractor can do.
What I would like to suggest to the governing body is, because not the amount, I want to make sure it's done right.
Yeah.
Bobby Thompson, who was a councilman and owns Highwood Roofing, has
Yeah.
been around for a gazillion years.
Right.
And also
And
does
he's
a
a
lot of
very honest
very
guy.
expensive slate roofs. I'd like him to call you, I will get him to call you, run it by him, maybe show him what you're talking about. Just get his opinion as to whether what you're considering doing is proper. Or you can discuss it if the price is right. He's not gonna try and take the job away from the other guy, as long as he feels the other guy knows what he's doing. But he's knowledgeable. I think he would be a good resource.
That's a very good
Yeah,
idea.
that's a good idea.
That's a
He's
good
an
Bobby's
excellent
on it.
idea.
We just
That's
met.
an excellent idea.
We just met with Brady Roofing because we needed to get some kind of idea
Well,
how much it was
And
for purposes of
he
this
was
meeting.
recommended over here. His name
He's one of the
was-
two that are recommended, and I looked up Hank Dougherty as well, but he comes from Long Valley.
Oh my God, yeah.
You're gonna end up paying for
Travel
his
time.
transportation
Travel time,
time,
yeah.
and quite frankly,
Brady's in the area?
I have a very old house, and I've done so many repair projects, I actually think 3,600 is not that bad.
I was very pleased when he said that number. I thought you were gonna say
I thought it was
36,000.
gonna come in a
That's
lot
what I thought.
higher, and quite frankly, if you get the wrong people on top
No,
of that
you don't
slate
want
roof,
that. You don't want
and
that.
you break
I'm
those
sure Bobby
slates,
knows Brady.
it's gonna cost you
Peter has
a
a good
lot more
idea.
money down the line to repair those slates.
I think
Because right
the
now,
idea of Bobby is
and I
good.
will say, he said while he was up there, he was going to batten down the hatches in the sense that he's gonna look at the condition of all the slates, and if they're loose, he's gonna reattach them. It's a good way to sort
All
of
right.
completely
You'll
take a
have,
look
you'll
at.
have Bobby and you're gonna make a decision.
I think the one thing I
Will
would like
you
clearance,
to do it?
I was gonna say,
clarity on
Seems
is
almost
whether,
reasonable, no?
because Brady has not written up the proposal yet, he didn't want to waste his time writing up his proposal if you're not at all serious about it.
If Bobby says it's okay, I would say go ahead and do it,
Yeah.
all right? I'll
Agreed.
give Bobby over to you.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
That's very good.
Is that it?
Yeah, so the cupola, I will say, that's a bigger project, and I think we do need to come up with a much more detailed scope of work. Tim is the right person to write it. I can get an estimate for what it would cost for him just to write the scope of work, how many hours he expects it to take. I think it's probably something I can ask the HPC to approve with one of our budget lines. And I'm talking about the scope of work,
Yeah.
so that we know what kind of money we're talking about. And what I would expect to have happen is I would have to go into your budget for next year. I think you said you wanted these numbers by November for your next cycle, and so. September. And so I think what we would do is look at this as a capital expenditure to restore the cupola. If you go back through some of the paperwork, Tim Adrians and Bob Culvert discussed this when they planned for last summer's work, but they decided at that time, this is based, late 2015, early 2016, that it could be put off and it wasn't necessary to do in this last round. But now it's getting to be time to address that before we have another roof leak that way.
Yeah, sure.
No, that's good. And we're talking painting on the outside of the cupola only?
Painting and some wood repair. There are signs that the wood is starting to deteriorate.
Inside or outside again?
We could only examine it from the outside. I'm not aware, we did not crawl up inside the cupola, so I'm not sure what the inside looks like. And that's it.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Is there any decision we have to make today?
No, I think, what I've heard is, I think that if Bobby says it makes sense to Mr. Brady to take care of that at that meeting, we'll go ahead and do it.
Yeah, okay, so
We'll give
let's
them
make the
permission to
decision.
move forward. I think everybody at this table agrees that the railroad station is one of our most important jewels, and we need to be proactive.
Oh, one more.
Don't hesitate. If you feel that there's something that needs to be done, I'd rather do it sooner than later. I get concerned when I hear that a support beam is being challenged. And I'm not
Well,
saying...
there's a lot of electric wires up there too, and if water's getting anywhere close to those electric wires.
Well, so that's why we need to be proactive. I think the governing body would be receptive. If we need to spend money on that property, we need to spend money on
And
that
so
property.
just so I have some direction, once we get this proposal from Brady, I would direct it to the borough administrator and we would figure out where the funding comes from,
Yeah.
or I would come back
No,
to.
the borough administrator.
Okay.
Do you remember when is the lease up?
Next year. We'll talk about that in the future, Dave.
All right.
Pride Day,
Very simply, we want to make a subcommittee. There's been some members of the public that have come out and said they're interested in helping to plan the day. And I'd like to work with the Chamber of Commerce with the permission of the council to plan the day. And
that's fine.
we need to get flags purchased.
Just keep us in the loop.
We need to purchase flags, so, for our flagpoles.
How
I'm
much?
sorry?
The rainbow flags for our flagpoles.
Do you have any idea how much?
Come back with a price?
I don't. Do you want me to look it up, or you want me to, Jewel, do you want to look that up?
On the
Get back to
internet,
me?
eBay.
You can do Amazon, but I don't know if that's the cheapest.
Well, why don't you come back with a price and just let us know?
You tell me
Amazon
how many
Prime.
flagpoles we have?
Do we have to put it at every flagpole?
You're supposed
What do
to.
we have, 2?
Sorry, what did
I'm
you
just
say?
trying to get, first off, I think flagpoles there are protocols. Our flagpoles are predominantly for US flags, and there are very, very specific rules.
The state rules, right?
Not just state and federal. So we have American flags, we have POW Maya flags. And then, as I informed you, there is actually a flag that we're supposed to have up that we didn't have.
Which was
Which is?
the state.
We have the, no,
Federal state.
oh my gosh, I have to look up. I told you about it a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another
Remember
flag, a law that was passed, a statute that was passed about another flag that's supposed to be
Do we
up.
have the legal ability to put a Pride Day flag up?
Mayor, why
Sean's a
not
good
use
idea.
the poles where we put the Christmas decorations, the light poles? Just put it on that.
Is that a standard?
Like,
I mean, in the downtown?
yeah, why not? I mean, there's no protocol for that, there's no, you put up Christmas
If that's what the
decorations.
goning body wants to do.
Yeah,
Well,
you need
How
to
many flags
decorate
you
the
gonna
town.
buy?
So there, you have $1, you have $24, but the point is, our ordinance actually says to put them on the borough flagpole, so,
What ordinance are you
or,
referring to?
or was it a resolution?
What do you,
We passed to pass Pride Day.
We
It
did,
does
yeah.
very specifically say to
And,
put
and we
flags
will
on
look at
borough
that,
flagpoles.
but it doesn't supersede federal
I
and
remember,
state
but-
law.
Okay, well, if we need to add a flagpole or, area, then we'll figure this out,
I'll
but
hang one for my deck.
you should. You absolutely should. I hope to, I will hang one for mine as well.
Mine,
But we do also, if we want to invite speakers or make a parade, I need permits or permission from,
Well, I don't see a parade, but maybe an event down at Hyler Park or at Peace Plaza.
well, so I'd like to make a subcommittee on this. Like I said, members of the public want to join. Does anyone,
sure.
how do
Go
I
ahead.
create a
Absolutely.
subcommittee with the public to create Pride Day?
Yeah, I think there's no harm in that.
A subcommittee, well,
Or how do I create an opportunity for someone?
why don't we, well, I don't necessarily think you
Commission.
have a committee as much as you put together a meeting, at
Right,
which
so how do
time,
I-
at the meeting, you guys can decide if you want to have some sort of a committee, which you can be in charge of.
So how do I need a public notice for this meeting?
For what?
To
No.
make a meeting to discuss Pride Day?
I think the best way to do it is through the
You don't need-
Northern Valley Press.
You don't need
What if
public
they are-
notice
By the
if
way, you never promoted me,
you don't have a quorum there.
What happens if
You're
it's a
not requiring
commission?
quorum.
They want to set up.
What?
What happens if the commission?
Oh, come on.
Okay, so I can make a meeting.
Let them know, please.
What is the date?
June 24th, it's a Sunday, last
Okay,
Sunday
I
in
can order
June
these.
will be Pride Day. Okay,
You're gonna get on that because your time goes by very quickly.
that's right, that's why I'm trying to get it done.
Okay, planning board recommendations for LDR revisions. Planning board pass this along?
I think,
Bill?
yeah, Jeff basically wrote the changes. I mean, he knows what he's doing. I looked through them. They look pretty good to me. I mean,
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah,
I
I
think I
didn't
just take them.
understand the changes. What are, I looked at
you
them,
should look at them.
and every change over here is just kind of a wording rather than substance.
Right.
Yeah, and
There was some changes to the state.
to the what?
Ordinances?
The state land development regulations.
So they have to-
Municipal land use
So a
law.
lot of it has to do with
Has to-
maintenance bonds and things.
Yeah, I saw them.
Along
I mean,
that.
It's trying to be in compliance with the state changes.
Right, so Jeff deals with this all the time. There are changes every once in a while to the municipal land use law.
Okay.
Some require us to change our ordinances and some don't require, but give us an opportunity to do it, like to increase the escrow requirements.
Yeah.
And so.
Okay.
No problem?
I see no problem with them.
Update memo, please.
I just wanted to, so what happens after this?
After what?
Wait.
The municipal land use changes?
Do we
Oh,
have to?
I'm going to take
We need to
those
approve them.
changes. No, there's gonna be an ordinance that makes those
Okay,
changes.
that's what I wanted
So that's
to
what I'm just
confirm.
saying.
So we approve the ordinance.
Yeah,
When it's done.
when he makes it,
Yeah.
after he makes it, which
I'm
won't be a while.
just gonna take,
After the trees are planted.
And
if someone sends me, Lisette or
Anne Marie.
Anne Marie, like sends me the Word format, or I'll get from Valerie.
Please.
And just per our conversation, you'll include
And I'll include
the
those
other
others, yeah.
suggestions from,
Yep.
prior suggestions.
There's
on the
three other
LDR.
changes, yeah.
Administrators report.
Sure. Our first page under current issues, as we indicated before, that was just an opportunity to lay out for you what the implementation process is once the budget has been adopted and once we get past the estoppel period, which ends May 10th.
Then we can actually spend the money.
Yes.
We can,
Actually spend
yeah, I
money.
think we will need a plan of all the spending.
For my
That's what we
education.
do.
For my education, I want to know, what is the estoppel period, what is the purpose of it?
The estoppel period is that there is a 20-day period in which the public can still object to any ordinance that's been adopted by,
Dealing with the budget.
Just don't.
not every,
just
any
don't-
ordinance.
just
Oh,
don't-
any ordinance.
Just don't tell me.
That's why we have to publish them.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's rare, but it could happen.
It could
Yeah.
happen.
Okay. Senior Transportation Program, just confirming that the request that was made during the budget period that we combine the two positions, that will take effect as of May 14th. Everyone's been informed, and we're in the process now of making those changes.
So John is gonna be our single position?
Correct.
Fantastic.
Yep.
It is as long as he stays. You ever have to replace him, it's a problem.
Let me tell you, man, that was
Susan's gonna take a second job.
just the thought of losing him. Some of you may have seen this past week, we received an announcement from the county. It was actually sent through the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, which is the NJTPA. They have a program called the Emerging Centers Program, where they will be providing, it is a competitive program, but they'll be providing technical assistance to communities that are interested in doing planning studies that advance sustainable transportation and land use planning. So,
planning.
since that's what I did in my former life,
Hold on, I have a
spent a lot of time at the NJTPA.
Lauren and Dan?
I have a question on this. The land use planning, can that be for green space, or is that something different?
That's what I'm gonna find out. Tomorrow's meeting is to basically give us the details on what they consider to be eligible and appropriate projects.
Would it be things for ADA or seniors, anything along those lines?
I don't think it's couched in that fashion. As you can see, it's transportation, land use planning,
Use that for
strategic
senior
planning.
bus?
Greenway, would Greenway qualify, something like that?
That's what I'm gonna find out at the
Okay.
meeting tomorrow. That's what it is. Tomorrow's the session is an information meeting.
I've been wondering this myself. Can you find out if multiple bus stops per block is better than one bus stop? Like one bigger bus stop. So if you drive down Tenafly Road or any of these roads, the bus stops every block.
Yes, it does. On Engle Street, I've been in that bus.
Why? Is it better than one big bus stop, or is it?
Better.
Why is it every block?
Well, you know,
Literally.
obviously,
Every block.
Convenience, I guess.
if a certain percentage of
For
people,
passengers.
if a certain percentage of people are walking to the bus stop, okay, and there's a bus stop every 2 blocks, they only have to walk up to one block in either direction. If you put one bus stop at each end of Tenafly Road, now people might have to walk
The whole of Tenafly Road.
Or
So-
drive to?
But it's a question worth
Right.
asking.
It is, it is, it is.
Just duck after you ask.
You get on this bus. Now you're stopping too. You're
Go ahead,
stopping.
Julie.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's good for the, right.
Councilman Bash has been inquiring about secure Wi-Fi connection. The borough does have a secure Wi-Fi connection maintained by the Board of Education. We had actually spoken to Bob Caputo about this, and he initially suggested that through the clerk's office, he might select a night where they would come and make these settings changes.
Yeah.
The other alternative is that just the same way you go to have your phones, have the email put on, you can just as easily stop by the board and they will also.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
we
Oh,
can
so
do
I
that.
can just go with my phone and then
And-
put the right
this one.
stuff on
And
it?
your iPad.
And my iPad.
Correct.
Yes. Right now I established a secure connection through my phone for everybody. here.
They don't give out the IP address.
Oh, that's
They
fine.
they put it
They
in.
just
have
go
to
there.
enter the MAC address.
Yeah,
in
we
there.
just go there. They did it for
Good.
my phone for the first time also.
We've already begun implementing the pilot program for the expedited council agenda that's going to take place in July and August. We've updated the bill list to match that revised schedule. We're doing fairly well with donations this summer for the fireworks and the concerts. As of last week, we had about over $11,000. and funds are still coming in. Constellation Energy sent us a letter, which we were very happy to see, and it just shows us that we were fortunate. We chose well. As you recall, when we were going through MX to do our reverse energy auction, it was we made it very clear that we wanted a company that was very interested and committed to sustainable, and I think their most recent update shows that they're maintaining that.
100%
Because we
wind.
do have a 3-year contract with them.
Is it 100%?
100% wind.
Okay.
Okay. Oresco Park
Wind.
is going very well.
Wind power.
We reviewed the 90% drawings, and the schedule is laid out there for you. The final specs are actually going to be submitted on May 8th. Our architect had a new baby born this week. But everything else, we will still make the date from the 15th on. Everything else will still be on schedule. Fire communications project, it's going well, but basically we're trying to get signals through the air. And what we're finding is that we've extended the testing period. We're getting, I believe, good cooperation from Goosetown. We have not talked about any additional funding for them, for their product or their services. But where I will need some more resources, and I do have the money in my budget, is for the meeting of the 15th, I would like to extend slightly for a couple of months the contract of our management consultant who's overseeing this work. His costs are very, very reasonable. He works about 10 hours a week, and I think his last contract extension was only about $4,000. But he's basically on top of this, and we want to bring this to a close. It's just testing to make sure that everything is going well. One of the things that did happen as a result of the last round was that they decided that we needed an upgraded antenna at the JCC. That was installed, and it was done at no additional cost
Who
to the
installed
borough.
this?
Goosetown,
Okay.
our contractor. There were a couple of inquiries about balances in various accounts.
Okay,
First,
before
the
we go,
Cohen
just
Trust
a question,
Fund.
please,
Sure.
I'm so sorry.
Yep.
We're supposed to put fiber over there. You said the signals are going through the air. What happens to the fiber?
Well, when I say the air, I was just being facetious. I'm just meaning that we're just trying to make sure that the signals are being directed correctly. They're going through the fiber.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
But yep. Okay. The Cohen Trust account that you inquired about.
Mhm.
Okay, you can see that the balance 1.8 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the open space. yeah.
Open space. I added a.
That's less, in other words, we actually have more, but you're subtracting from our balance the offer we made for that property in Serpentine,
Correct.
so.
We're
that
not
offer-
naming the offer, but yes, we have deducted it.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
minus that, right?
Yes, so if we
It's
were
a
to
net.
purchase the property, we would still have 1.8 million.
Right. And there was also a second part to that, which was an inquiry about Fister's Pond and the availability of those funds that may not be expended, but they can't be reappropriated or reallocated back to the Open Space Trust until the project is completed and closed out.
So to understand that, because I looked very carefully here, we have 1.56 million really, and if
6 where?
54636.
okay, yeah.
So, and if the money left over from the Fister Pond comes back, I'm just gonna say roughly 500,000, let's say.
Roughly
It's
2 million.
yeah, it'd be 2 million. Now, is this 399, 137 yearly, or, because when it says this year,
That's approximately yearly,
yearly, so 400,000 roughly every year?
correct?
Thank you.
Alrighty. And then events, just to remind you that our garden club has become very, very active, and so we've been trying to support them. They have their annual plant sale on coming up May 11th and 12th. We have our annual Reuben Run on Mother's Day, May 13th. The Chamber is continuing its special sale days on weekends, and Recreation has its Safe at Home softball tournament coming up. And there were some questions about other projects that are within our capital budget that are overseen by our engineer. That's where you can find the latest information about the status of those projects, and that's attached.
That's the
The
engineering
engineering
manual.
report, right.
Okay?
One more question about this.
Sure.
The co-op fund, do we know how much roughly we're gonna get this year on it, or we don't have any idea?
That depends on the level of development.
Of the level, okay.
Correct.
But the good news is there doesn't seem to be any slowdown in Tenafly.
The money is coming in.
So, okay,
Huge
just to make,
housing
how much did we get last year?
60 to 70
I
last
think
month.
We'd have to look
the
that
people
up,
that are
yeah.
building that live across the street from me, they're selling the big house and downsizing.
That's downsizing
I
there?
think so.
So you want to know, and we'll find that for
Yeah.
you, the amount that we got from development fees last year.
So I can kinda, I said, okay,
It was
roughly.
60,000
Jeff?
last month.
Joel, I want to go back to Pfister's Pond for a minute, because I'm really getting concerned about Mazer on this. We had a meeting with them, the subcommittee.
Did you see the report?
I saw the report, I saw everything. We had, but you weren't at the meeting at the beginning of April where they sat there, they looked at it. They said to us point blank, when asked, when will you be able to get an application to the state? They said, no problem, it's a general permit May 1st. Today is May 1st. Now I'm looking at different timetables. I'm looking at their report dated April 27th, which is saying a committee meeting is being scheduled to discuss the next steps, which have already been discussed. I see a timetable that takes it into August, September, October, which will take it past the season that they can do the work because there are limitations due to salamanders, other animals, and this isn't going to get done to next year when it's something that they said point blank, May 1st at the latest, and then about 4 to 6 weeks after that, we should have the permit. We should be ready to work by the beginning of July. Now that's Mazer. That's not. I'm not talking about the nature center. So I want to know what changed radically that their entire timetable. They don't need to meet again with the subcommittee because it was all discussed.
No.
to death.
It was.
But that's what it says in their memo dated April 27th.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Under Pfister's Pond, page 4 of 6, it says a committee meeting is being scheduled to discuss
But that
the next
was,
steps.
that was eliminated. That meeting was eliminated.
Well,
Wait,
that's
so it's
between
yeah.
April
No,
27th
well, that's
and...
because there's a timing difference. When they talked about having a meeting, that was what I reported to the committee. Andrew brought to my attention in the email that he sent the fact that he gave me, just as you're giving me an update about what had happened in April. So keep in mind that this report is dated the 27th. So just in the last 2 days, I've spoken to Mazer. Mazer agrees that a meeting is not necessary. I sent that out as well. What we got instead was a report, because we agreed, we did not need a meeting for them to give us a status report.
But
So they
that
sent the
gets back to
status
my
report.
question.
I know,
If
I
the
won't.
timetable is
Right.
radically different than what they promised on April 4th, that's not that long ago.
It's not
And
that long.
I did report to
Well,
the
Andrew
council.
seems to know something.
And I did report to the council at the next meeting, the status of it, and that, so I...
Joel,
it's
can you
not
find
a-
out what's going on, please?
Yeah.
Well,
I
we
really want to know.
we have a complete status report that
Why
was
is the
lit.
timetable
Well,
changed?
he's going back. I will find out what the change was. Andrew seems to want to say something.
No, I want to ask a question first. This thing of currently completing evaluation of dam and outlet structure, was this done when you had the
We
meeting?
walked it, we discussed
I
it
believe
to
it's done.
death. It's
It's
been
done.
Right. Keep in mind, this is what happened in April.
Well,
So
but I'm gonna-
you're talking about the same month.
Yeah, but
They
this is
tell us,
data.
no matter
Right.
when they do it, they.
Hold on a
Right.
second. Andrew, did you
Right.
want?
I guess the only thing I would say is that you guys approved the funding in October, I think, last year. So my concern is more of a bigger picture of every month there is more and more. We've had 3-4 meetings with them, and every time it's this, and then it changes. So all I would ask is kind of try to corral them in. They have to do work, that's fine. They have to go through their process. Just get it done.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking.
So let's just keep the timing in perspective. So you're saying that you met with them on April 4th, and that's fine. We meet with them at the end of every month. So what you have in this report is everything that's occurred since the last report in March. With regard to the timing, and I think that was included in my email, what they explained to me, and that's the question that's being asked, if you recall, in the meeting I was at, they were telling us very, very precisely, because we were estimating, or I wasn't, but people who were familiar with the pond were estimating the water levels and what we were trying to return to. And if you recall, there was a very detailed, very lengthy discussion about what historic documents existed. Nobody thought the documents existed. Peter found a map, and Mazer found some stuff down at DEP, and essentially what it showed was that the water levels that were being cited internally by us were higher than the historic maps indicated. And that was one of the major changes that took place. And that was one of the changes. It's good and bad. It means that the pond is not as deep as people think it is. Okay.
Is that good or bad?
It is what it is.
It makes no difference. It makes no difference. When are we gonna get it done?
No, I have one question.
I will give everyone the schedule. I gave it to the committee this afternoon.
But what I'm saying is that what they sent as that schedule, which you shared with the committee, is just radically different than what it was before. And a lot of their stuff, I know that there's a report for April, you meet with them at the end of April, but when I see something dated April 27th, and Mazer is currently completing an evaluation, and once this work is completed.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. What's happening to that tree?
To me, that's not what happened in early April. That's at the end of the month after we already met with them and went over this 3 weeks earlier. They're saying they're currently doing this. I'm not sure that.
So we need to understand why on April the 4th they said it would be done, and now on April 27th they said we're working on it.
Right.
Well, number one was, if you recall, Andy has been away for 2 weeks.
Well, that's why we have a company.
That's not our problem.
Well, excuse me, but one of the things that we're doing to keep within the scope of the $50,000 is that we don't have a ton of people working on this project.
Wait a minute. If the company commits to, I have a question there.
On April 4th, Andy knew he was going away. This wasn't he knew he was going away. He knows he has a budget, and he gave the sense that this would be done to meet a May 1st deadline. Now it sounds like it's not done for a May 1st deadline. By missing that deadline, it pushes the whole timetable back significantly. We need to find out if that's accurate, and if so, why?
It is accurate, because
why the change?
They just updated everything today. I will ask them for a more complete explanation about the change, but they have provided
I think you can
a complete
go a step
update.
further and say that we are concerned and upset over the fact that this project has been pushed back.
And that has been conveyed to them.
Yeah, well, we want to know why.
Not upset, displeased.
Sure.
I have a question, Mayor. The issue was raised that we wouldn't want to spend more money because Andy was away. This is a company. Why should we pay for the substitute to do the work?
We all agree.
Yeah,
that should not raise the issue, money at all.
That's not an excuse.
And I will say that at that meeting on the 4th, there was also someone named Pat who was assisting.
Pat Jameson.
That there's a Michael, I forget his last name, who's the project engineer who has a team that he was meeting with.
Well, Jeff, I think we all agree
Right.
We are
that
fully
if we're told on April 4th,
Right.
it'll be done by May 1st. If it's not done by May 1st, we'd like to know why.
And
That's it. Thank
one more
you.
thing.
I think they should be told we are displeased.
And, I think we conveyed that.
Yeah, and one more thing. I go through this report every time, and here we got things that are 2 years old, and I don't know what is really new. Okay, the DOT safety traffic was done in 2012. The DPW building was November 21, 2007. All this extra stuff takes away from really.
Wait, hold on.
No.
For example, the
It's not
DPW
extra.
building, has everything been closed down yet?
No,
Okay,
because
that's why it's there, Max.
the portion of the DPW building is the UST. That is going to be ongoing. Many things that we do with regard to projects,
Julie,
they're
you don't
not
want to listen for a
completed in
second.
a year.
This is exactly what was last month, exactly what was, it's the same thing. If there is what we need here, it's update what happened from last month to now. Because if it gives you the same report that was a year ago, 6 months ago, I don't even know what the hell's going on.
Max, number one, we're talking about a particular thing. That is not, what you're saying is not true of the entire report. The report is updated every month. But certain things don't move. For instance, we have permits
So then
that
we should say DOT, nothing new. Next time, DPW, nothing new. So we know that nothing has been happening, because if I look
This
at,
gives the
I have
impression.
I have the impression, and I read, wow, that's nothing. Again, it's so much simpler if you say nothing new versus trying to put
No
3
change.
paragraphs with this, okay.
All right, are we,
it's still under monitoring.
Yeah.
So it's going to remain on there.
so all of the, let me just ask, all the things that are coming when escrow period is done, the dog park and the senior grant and all these things, we'll have an opportunity to review them?
Sure.
Why, here's my question, and I've asked Lizette this numerous times. Why can't we review the plans now so that when the money's released, we can move on it?
Because included in the funding are the soft costs. You're asking us to have the people work when we don't have authorization to pay them.
But so for example, the dog park, from what I understood, the dog park has already had a plan by the engineer.
The dog park was cut back.
Yeah.
And so you need a revised plan for the cutback.
Where is the dog park?
It's just under a new initiative, for
Under the
example.
initiative.
So my question is, in general though, Oresco Park and all these things, it takes a while, and I understand how government is much more slow than the
You're getting
private
the
sector.
handle on it, aren't you?
You're mixing apples and
But my
oranges. Because
question
Oresco
is-
Park is not a Mesa project, it's a borough project, and I just gave you a complete rundown of when it's going to be done.
No, hold on. I'm not asking for the date of the timing. I'm asking for the physical rendering or, the site plan or the engineer's things or what's going to be entailed or even just a list of soft costs so we know what's coming our way and when the money is released, we can then move on it and approve it or continue it, but
We've already approved it in the budget.
Right.
But we
don't need to approve it
We don't
again.
have a final, for example, Oresco Park plan. We have, like we said, 90% of it, or the 90% plan, the new plan hasn't been presented to us. The dog park hasn't been presented to us. Where it's going to be, how it's going to look, is it going to have a water feature? What materials is it going to be made out of? My question is a more general sense. In all of these things that we're spending capital for that come out in May, why can't we make decisions before the capital's released?
Because the work is done by the engineers. And when you approve the project, you not only approve the work, but that includes the engineering and design.
So you don't
It's the
have the
same,
engineering
we don't
costs?
we don't have budget authority yet.
So all engineers come May, let's say money is released May 10th, all municipalities on May 10th, the engineers are first starting to work on those projects then?
It depends on when their budgets are approved and whether it was in last year's budget or this year's
but-
budget.
So we have no ability then to create a plan, an engineering plan, a landscaping plan, a site plan, anything.
We have to pay for
visual.
those, you have to pay for those
Yeah,
things,
I
unless it was in last year's budget, you
So-
don't have the money approved to do it.
So my question is, since they know we've put the money now in our budget, for example, to do that engineering work, and we've set that money aside in our line item budget, and we know it will be released on May 10th, we can't task somebody and say,
No.
they'll be on
No,
May 10th.
unfortunately,
No.
you can't work on the
Certified
We
contract.
just did
Listen,
that.
please,
Peter,
please
we just
review
did that.
this.
We
That's
s- we
why,
signed an
that's why I
agreement.
show you that.
I'm just saying-
Look at this implementation. Request for proposals. That has to be approved by resolution. As-
So the resolution is
Authorization
not
for
a big deal.
engineering and design. That requires a
It's a big deal if you
resolution.
want to do it.
Submit plan for authorization to seek quotes or advertise bids. That requires a council resolution. They don't just work willy-nilly. They have to
I'm
be
not-
authorized
So we
by
can write
this
the
body.
resolution.
I'm saying the things that we've already discussed with them.
But you haven't, but the monies are not authorized.
It's not official.
It's not official.
That's
We did a resolution, remember, already to get the filter.
And keep in mind,
Yeah, which.
Nobody can touch anything until the money's released.
we're
No, that
responsible
we
for
released
getting
already.
authorization
Actually, the
from the
work might be
council
done.
to
I'm
give a
saying
notice to
the
proceed.
I'd like to move
Let's
on.
move
Let's
on,
move on.
let's move
We're
on.
already past my
next.
hour and a half, and we're not even in the public meeting yet. Okay, under correspondence, I'm gonna make this real quick.
Yeah.
A and D are 2 pod requests. We normally grant them, I would suggest we grant them each 90 days. If they need more than 90 days, they have to come back to us. The only thing that disturbs me about both of these pods are they're already there. Apparently, this is one of the things where code enforcement picked up the fact that there's a pot on somebody's front lawn without a permit. But, you know, I'm just pointing it out because I want, when I get a pod request, I always look at the property to see how it fits. The property, there's no real issues here, but and the pods are already there.
Yeah.
So
I have
Anne Marie, 90 days?
I have to recuse myself. I'm on the board of director of Ms. Rothenberg's.
Well, that's okay. This is a private, this is a personal house, it's not.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's a conflict of interest.
Okay. Next is,
The parade.
B is Lubavitch. The parade is tomorrow. They
Yeah.
got it in kind of late, so we kind of approved it anyway.
But the only thing is,
It's Thursday, rather.
yeah, they wanted to stop the traffic on county roads.
I was just gonna ask
We're
the
not
same question
allowed-
about the
It's
traffic.
it's only half of the street,
Yeah.
and it's only for 10 minutes.
I mean, are we allowed?
Yeah,
This
the
is
police handle
45,
it.
45 minutes, or
I
did
mean,
we say
it's-
10 minutes
county,
past
we
that?
don't have to get county involved?
It's happened, this is a yearly thing.
If it's okay, if it's
When the
kosher.
Reuben Run crosses East Clinton, we don't get county.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's kosher, it's okay.
They answer to a higher authority, Vince.
Okay, all right, I'm okay.
And then we have C, a letter of DPW commendation. We'll
Yes.
pass it
Very
on to
nice.
the committee
That
for
was
their
very
approval.
nice.
Very nice.
Okay, any questions on the resolutions? I know better than
Yeah,
others.
yeah, they are. You shouldn't ask, yes? Yeah, they are. First of all, let's directly to the resolution. One of the resolution.
What letter?
Letter?
I'll get it, just give me a second so I can, all right. There are two things. One of them was the approval of direct negotiations for the
Tennis court?
tennis court, yes.
Where is that? What number, what is it?
We're getting rid of all the bids and starting over?
No.
It's
Authorizing,
H.
Reject bids and authorize
Yeah,
negotiation of
Yeah,
contract.
okay, so I read the resolution. What I want to add to that resolution is not to exceed 76, whatever the bid was. So I don't want them to go negotiate and say, oh, we negotiated it's 150,000 when the bid was $76,000.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Yes, please.
I'm not gonna say it's a matter of trust,
Okay.
but it's a matter of trust. I
Yeah.
mean, why would we do that?
No, but
I
there's a
don't-
budget. There's a
budget.
there's amount budgeted for it, and the
Yeah,
problem
but
is
budget
that
it's
we.
100,000. So,
Now they can see
it's
it, now it's
100,000. And the approved.
Now it's public.
But the reason that the bid's rejected is because
It
the
exceeds the
qualifying bid exceeds the budget.
No, this was not rejected. This was a defective bid because you pointed
Yeah.
out that the quantity of asphalt was bid 3 times. or-
Right, but that wasn't the only bid. We had other bids. We had
But that was the lowest one.
Right.
That was the lowest one,
Right.
and there was 76,000, which
Right.
is much less than 100,000. And now we're gonna go and have a direct conversation with that bidder. So we said, okay, we'll
No,
allow.
that bidder.
Yes, that's specifically what it said.
No.
Yes,
No.
read it.
That's what it says.
Authorization to directly
for-
negotiate directly with lowest
First-
responsible
first-
bidder.
first-
Right,
First-
it's
first
not
of
the
all-
one, it's not the one.
First of
that-
all,
It's
Max,
the bid.
Wasn't he the low bidder?
Most important.
No, it was not, he wasn't a responsible bidder.
Most important.
Please.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So we negotiate, I don't care who we negotiate with.
Yeah.
All right, we come to an agreement. The agreement has to be approved here.
I know, but
So-
why would we even worry about?
Why would you worry about the fact that our professionals, if you know, what do you think they're doing? Because there's not enough money in it for
I'll
them?
tell you in a second what, you know. The lowest bid was $76,000 or so, 76,800. And now they're gonna negotiate with that bidder.
No.
But the
No.
difference.
Yes, it is. It is what it
Bill's
is.
saying he wasn't
He said he's not
responsible.
responsible. So then the
It's the next-
86,000
it's the next bidder.
It's the next bidder. The 86,000 is the
Yeah,
responsible bidder.
we wanna make sure that we don't go into a higher than that, because we have approved up to
Well,
100,000.
then you know what? We'll vote no on it.
Yeah,
don't
we
think
have
so.
approved up to
No, no.
100,000.
wait a
So,
minute, no.
yes, Bill, let me, numbers, talk to me, I know the numbers.
No, the lowest responsible bidder was over our budget, right?
No, that's the culvert,
He was
that's the culvert
defective.
repairs.
This is
No,
This is
86.
the tennis courts.
This
Here.
is the
Hold it, I don't have to look at it, I
Giordano
know what we're talking about. The lowest responsible bidder, the lowest bidder the bid was defective.
Yes.
Don't count them.
Correct.
Okay, the next lowest,
Is 86,000.
86,000 was
wasn't
720.
that over our
No.
budget?
No,
No,
86,700.
No, that was the
Bill,
culvert, I'm
Hold on,
sorry, that was the
Susan,
culvert.
do you understand what happened here?
I know what happened.
So
He's saying
please
the-
explain.
the next bid up is the bid that you're looking at now. They have a right to negotiate once you reject the bids.
Yeah.
So when we,
Yeah.
Susan,
Who has
when
a right
oh,
to negotiate?
Who's negotiating?
Susan, we have, when you say,
Listen.
excuse me for 1 second. When you say we have a right to negotiate,
If you reject all the
Reject the bids,
You-
at the second time,
bids, two times, yeah.
you have the right to negotiate with the lowest,
Next lowest.
Responsible.
so when we,
the lowest responsible bidder.
so when we, so the next lowest responsible bidder was 86.
Yes.
86,
And when you
720.
say negotiate with them, we're gonna negotiate in an effort to get it down lower
Lower.
than 86.
Yes.
Right.
No.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
yeah,
No.
That's exactly what it is.
Negotiate means closing a contract. You might even get at the same 86,000.
Max, I know you don't
But
trust anybody,
Yes.
but the matter is, when they say, we can't pay more than eight, we're not legally allowed to pay more than the 86.
We are. We are,
but
absolutely.
they're not gonna go up.
But they're not going to go up.
Yeah, but I'm saying, you ask about, that's exactly the point. Legally, they are allowed to go up, because it happened to us when we did the garbage, and we had the same.
There's no
So,
point in
That was different.
yeah, but
So what
We didn't
what
negotiate that.
What this
We
is
rebid.
saying is, we're gonna
rebid,
take the
right.
bidder that bid $86,000 and try and negotiate them down.
Right.
Regardless of whether we're successful or not, the end result is gonna come back to us, and if you don't like, we vote no.
okay, so the point what I was making is, part of a good policy is when you say, okay, we'll take the dollar here, and make sure that you not go over the bidding amount.
But maybe we could get
Okay.
less.
If it's less,
Well, that's what their intent is, to get less.
intent, not in
Well,
a,
they can't go over, they're not allowed to more than 86.
okay, all right.
Anything else?
Yes.
I'm afraid I need an answer.
Yeah, because I don't think that's
All
right.
Which one next?
The other one is,
What
I had a few questions about the expenses, and I sent it,
Before we do expenses, 'cause
Okay.
that's gonna take a while, can I do my one question?
sure.
This is on the open space
I'm gonna
grant.
go.
Letter number?
Sorry, hold on.
What's the
C,
budget
this is
for that?
C,
100,000?
to authorize
think so.
engineering services.
Because Krepke said it was
Where's my
over,
question?
otherwise why would we reject the bid? It was within our budget.
My question's for Joel.
Because it
Are you
was,
helping things here or hurting?
because the
So
lowest
why
one,
did we reject the bidder?
And I'll talk about the.
Why did we reject the bidder?
Because it was defective.
defective,
What does
exactly.
defective mean?
No,
It was-
that bid was defective, yes,
Yeah,
the 76,000.
exactly, that's what was rejected,
Yes.
was under the
It was
threshold.
defective twice.
Yeah,
Twice now.
Twice, yes.
Okay, back to yours.
Okay,
That's
so my
not what I
question
was
is
saying.
on.
Wait,
C.
is Max done?
we're gonna go to expenses. She wants to do something about the resolutions. We're gonna go to the expenses next.
So my question is on this, this is the ADA improvements for Roosevelt Park, Roosevelt Common. And I find that the scope is too narrow here, and the entire project is only $3,800. But from what I understood, that we were redoing the walkways, the landscaping.
Not for the purpose of the,
$3,000.
The ADA,
not for
That's
whatever we
just for the
commit.
engineering services.
that's just for the engineers.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, I was thinking this was the entire scope.
No,
How
no.
are we just doing that?
They have to come, for every project, it has to come before council 4 times.
Okay, I
But
just
this
wanted
is
to
not,
make
this is just for
Which in some
preparation
cases
of the
is not
grant
enough.
application.
Good, done. Okay, that's my question.
So now we're going back to the
For them to
expenses.
show up.
That's A.
Okay, expenses. I don't know if you
Okay,
if you have a chance to look at them. I looked over the expenses. First of all, at last meeting we discussed that we're going to have a review of the Hughes maintenance because it was 40,000. I don't see
Not
anything.
40, it's under 40 from July to December.
Yeah, but it's going to go way over, and we know that it's 4,000 every month. And we said it's too much. We need to have an
No,
analysis.
what we need,
Yeah.
rather than saying it's too much, we need to have a better understanding.
Exactly.
Are we throwing money into a black hole here? I mean, are we just patching something that could be fixed? I mean, it's a significant expenditure every month. And I know this has been an ongoing problem. I mean, Shama will remember the
Oh my God,
problems
ever
we had
since the
with this
building was built.
8 years ago or however long ago it was. We want a plan. We want somebody to tell us where we're going with this. We don't feel like, let's just spend $4,000 a month for the rest of.
Yeah.
After we spent $36,000 30,000 when they came in to undo everything that the previous contractor
And that's
bid.
not the first time it was done and undone, Mayor, you
Yeah,
remember
so,
that too.
exactly,
I
so,
got my own
Well, you're gonna have
climate
to go
zone
out
in
to
there, I
bid,
know.
it's gonna go,
I'm sorry?
you have to go out to bid, if it's gonna go for.
Well, no, first of all, we need to understand
No,
what
we
is
want-
going on.
We want, I don't know if it's
With this
Carl Rossi,
vendor-
Joe Joe.
Oh, we have to talk to Carl and find
When we
out.
talked about this at the last meeting.
Last meeting was this.
Joel.
Yeah.
But we can't anticipate every time they're gonna come in.
No,
to
we're
do
gonna.
it.
No, that's not the issue.
That's not even the issue.
Well, the issue is we want to know
I
what's
think the
going on.
issue is the condition of the
Oh, yeah, well,
HVAC
that
system.
would be something that
Joel,
would.
so we need a report on that at the next
Yeah.
meeting, please.
And what's the plan? What are we
Yeah,
gonna
what-
be doing?
You know, we want a long-term plan that resolves the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the
Okay.
other one, I have noticed a few expenses which were very high. I have sent them to Susan. And the point I was making is, I was asking, those are multi-$1,000 expenses.
Oh, no.
Do we have a policy that on expenses that are high, do we get at least multiple bids? So we know it's either a state contract or multiple bids, so we know it's not.
Well, it depends on your definition of high. We have a bid threshold.
No, that has nothing to do,
Excuse me.
it's under the bid threshold. Even if it's at $3,000, do we go to Cousin Vinny and say, here's 3,000 cousin? Or we go and get 3 bids from different people or so, to know that we are doing effectively
Under
a good
6
work?
market.
I don't have a concept of
Right.
Well, I'm not sure
Because
it would be cost-effective or within our powers to get 3 bids on everything that we do.
3 quotes, we can call 3 contractors to get it's a
not
good
every-
policy to have
Yeah,
a competitive.
Could you please ask?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, in accordance with local public contracts law, anything, because I'm a QPA, anything under 6,000, we're not required to get quotes.
Forget about requirements.
No, but that's the law.
No,
I'm
no,
saying,
it's
you know,
minimum. We can do, if we want to have $100, we can agree that $100 is going to be competitive bid. That's the
Well,
requirement.
where do you,
So, Max,
where do you?
$1,000.
But Max,
So you-
if you sort, the amount of work that's processed, and you're gonna hold up the process in paying people, getting.
It has nothing to do with process.
No, the quotes take time to get.
Yeah, so if you call 3 contractors and say, I did this one, give me a
So
quote.
you got a leak and you want us to wait for the third?
I didn't, any of the expenses that I have over here are large expenses that are not emergencies. They are,
Give an example.
There's a
Okay,
lot, there's
okay, so I-
1,300 for Arrow Tree,
What, please? I didn't hear that.
1,300 for Arrow Tree, but I didn't get all
For
the
what, I'm sorry,
explanation.
Susan?
Arrow Tree, okay?
why do we say our
Tree
tree?
cutting
That's one of the
I have
things.
to answer the questions, but we pulled the POs, now we're looking at them.
Okay.
I have the auditors here right now, so we're doing our audit, so we will look at them. $4,000 for Bingham Communication. Innovative Data Solutions, you didn't put them out there, but, Intruder Detection System, 1680. John A. Earl, I don't know, I'm not sure who that is, 2017. Oh, cleaning. Marmor Inc., 1884. Sports Time, 3704. And V.E. Ralph and Son, 1574.
Okay, so let me take one.
And one was a,
Let me
you had a
take-
valid question, and it's probably a state contract, it was on a vehicle.
Let me
That's what I
take-
was
let me
asking.
take
My
one-
question was, so can you read the memo? Are they basically state contracts? Or do we have multiple bids on them to understand that that's?
No, Max, we wouldn't get state contracts and all this stuff. What happens is they go out,
Hmm?
they figure out who they're gonna need to provide the service or purchase the item from. Anything under 6,000, they're not required to get
I
quoted.
know the
All right,
requirements.
hold
I know,
on.
but-
Susan, hold on a second,
Yeah.
please.
Right.
But
Hold
this
on.
is, you
Susan,
know,
hold on a second, please. Okay, I want to take one of those things that just happens I'm familiar
Yeah.
with the vendor. Sports Time,
Yeah.
$3,704. It's for uniforms for some recreation
Yeah.
program. Okay, they've been using Sports Time for years. They know that if they call up on a Tuesday and they need uniforms by Friday, Sports Time will deliver them. They'll be a decent quality. Everything is kumbaya. Okay, so if you're suggesting that they need to go out and get 3 bids, and the low bid may be $3,000, but it's a vendor that we've never used, we don't know if they're gonna get it in on time, we don't know the quality of it, so you're putting a lot of things in jeopardy. If they've been working with a vendor who happens to be good, and I'm just using this as an example, you're creating a lot of work, you're creating a potential jeopardy in getting the work done, because usually when they order uniforms, they need them the next day, because that's just the way it is. So I understand what you're saying. I don't want to spend more money than we have to, but I think that there's a bid limit for a specific reason. And what you're doing is you're just compounding the amount of work that is required. Now you say, well, do it. Well, that's great, but they're already doing other things. You want to encumber each one of these departments to do all this extra work. I would truly believe if they need a service or a product that they haven't had before, they're going to shop around. Now, maybe you don't think so.
No, that's why basically the guidance of the council, mayor and council, is important, to basically tell them that every product should be either a state contract or a competitive bid or a good reason to use a certain
There
vendor.
are state contracts for
Huh?
everything.
They're not state contracts.
So, but there are other places other things that can have state contracts. So,
When there's
So
a
I
state
just want
contract
to-
involved, they use it.
We take advantage
We
of it.
do, but Max, I just want to say something.
yeah, please,
Every time we get a PO,
yeah.
the Mary Patino's our employee who does account payable. She is outstanding in what she does. She looks through everything, looks to see if it looks reasonable, if something's out of whack. Like this one, it was $480. It was all medical supplies, first aid supplies, and it looks valid. I'm looking at this, nasal sprays, wipes, masks. You know, it adds up when you start buying these things, and we're buying them in big quantities. Now, if there's something that looks really out of line with us, we'll call Jewel, we'll call the department head. We really scrutinize these things.
So listen for a second, Susan, I'm not trying to make, but if we establish a policy, and it's well established within the borough, saying that all expenses over a certain amount should be competitively bid, at least people will have a specific understanding that they have to worry about making sure that they get
But we
the best
already have
price.
that.
State law does.
We already have it.
No, the law says 6,000.
Right, you want to lower it.
No, you
I
can
want to,
get
yes,
quotes.
up to a certain
You want
amount.
to lower
say-
it, which will require a tremendous amount of work. And
delays.
you know
The cost
that
benefit is-
we are
That's why they said that.
we are often handicapped by the fact we have to take the lowest qualified
Right,
bidder.
6,000.
Because sometimes the lowest qualified bidder doesn't do the job the way we want it.
Yeah.
So now what you're suggesting is we do take all of these bills and we have lowest qualified bidder, except we can't qualify them. Really, how do you qualify somebody if you want to buy 100 T-shirts? You can't. So now
it's
you're
the same thing when you qualify somebody that has a higher bid.
what they've done over the years is they've found vendors that work well with us. And it really, once again, Max, it comes down to trust. Okay, you
It comes down to
trust them
policies.
we have a policy already. You either trust them to do their job or you don't. You want to add to their job, that's great, but they can't do more work unless you take it away from other people.
I don't want to take any more time because
Good.
we have other things, but the reason for a policy is to ensure that things are done rather than say, I trust they're going to do the thing.
Nobody's questioning the reason for policy, but you want to bog the works down with policies, nothing will get done.
But Max, we're following the law.
Yeah,
Law.
forget about the law.
No, but that's
Law is
very
up to a
important.
certain...
Susan, that's not the point.
That's
No,
not
but
the
it
point.
is the point, because
Huh?
this is the reason why you have a qualified purchasing
I
agent.
understand.
If you didn't have a qualified purchasing agent, the quote threshold would be $2,625.
That's right.
That's why they make these laws, so
Yeah,
that,
and are you basically involved in every single bid over 2,600 to 4,000?
I'm looking,
Are you involved in the bid,
Let her
Susan?
answer.
first the department head has to look at it, then Jewel has to approve it, then I have to approve it, and then it goes to.
Yeah, but are you involved in the bid per se? The reason we have a purchasing is in order to be able to increase and then says, okay, because the purchasing agent does those, but the real truth is that everybody does it individually, and this is just a...
Just to make a point,
Yeah.
in reverse, when she wasn't a QPA, things took way longer. It was
Yeah,
worse.
all right. Okay, let's move on.
I don't mind answering your
Let's move on.
questions, but,
Let's move
you
on.
know, this is too
Where do
long.
we know?
smooth.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on the resolutions? I'm begging you, let's move on.
There's been no
Okay.
changes, though.
No. Would anybody have a real objection if we just didn't deal with the good of the order tonight? It's not really that good at this point.
I just have one thing that has to get discussed, sorry, because it has to get discussed. We have Gun Violence Awareness Day, also a day that requires planning. It's coming up on June 2nd nationally. We passed the,
I got my orange shirt out of storage.
that's right, and Julie O'Connor's here tonight with her gun shirt. So again, this day,
Well, what do you foresee, what would you like to foresee happen in Gun Awareness Day?
what I'd like to ask the council is, would you like to reach out to the school side and the joint use and have the school side participate? We know the high school seniors are always interested in advocating and being active.
I think
But-
it's important that they should be involved.
So I would like to propose this as something that joint use handles.
Well,
Mayor.
what usually would occur on this is we would prepare a proclamation or a resolution, but when you
Did
say...
we do that already last year? This passed last year.
Yeah, but when you say do something joint with the schools, you know, whatever they want, whatever they're going to do, we can piggyback on. We can, if the mayor and council want to support what they're doing, if there's going to be a march or an event there, we can go and represent the mayor and council. I don't know what else you would have
I'd
in
like to
mind.
establish a Tenafly Gun Violence Awareness Day. I've spoken with Police Chief Chamberlain. I mentioned the idea of, a lot of it is about safety and using our gun safety for our registered gun users here in town,
I would tell you this.
coordinating
We
with the
only have
police.
one meeting between now and June the 2nd.
why this has to
I think
come
it's
up
a little. I think it's a little late. Even at this point, I don't know what you have in mind, but
Well, what I would like to do is basically try to establish some sort of day on June 1st or 2nd, the Friday or Saturday.
well, what does that mean?
Well, I think we should have an event in which we advertise it as a borough event. We have some sort of support in Orange, because that's what the day is. We have people here from the committee for, Moms Demand Gun Action and other nationally recognized gun safety and violence awareness groups. I don't think it's 2 months or at least a month is that far to plan a day like this. It doesn't require a lot of money being spent. It requires
Well, why don't you work with the committee?
$0.
Lauren, you said Julie is part of a committee?
Julie's here.
Okay, why don't you work with her committee and report back to us at the next meeting what your plans are? And if, I don't see any, I can't imagine coming up with something that's going to be that objectionable, we'll do it.
Okay.
Okay?
I promise I'm not going to take more than 5 minutes on this open space amendment. I need to get this one done because
Why is that? What's the emergency?
Jeff, it's not, I'll explain to you, we need to put it in front of the planning board to be able to move on this one. So give me a 3 minute.
All right, I'm keeping track. Go ahead.
So Jeff and I worked, as you know, remember we were looking to do an overlay into a zone of the Tenafly where there are very large properties that can be purchased and transformed in multi-family. We spend a lot of time.
Max, you're not making any sense.
Yeah.
You want to put multifamily homes?
If you give me
over
a chance, I'll explain to you.
there? I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Jeff and I were looking to do a overlay zoning in a part of the town where there are very large properties that can become multifamily or very large development.
You know they're all zoned for 1 acre.
So if you give me a chance, and in order to do that, we contacted Burgess, we talked to them, and we find out that that's not the way to go.
Right.
After we did a lot of research, and I want to thank very much Lauren for finding this one. I spent a lot of time with Burgess, and we found what we believe to be a very
Can I
good
ask you a
solution.
question?
Yes, please.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Burgess charges for their time.
No, he didn't.
They didn't charge?
No.
You're sure?
Absolutely, I talked to him.
Because basically, individual members of the governing body, including the mayor, should not be reaching out to our professionals until it's discussed at this table.
We discussed at the table, and you reached out to Burgess and said that the overlay is not good. So I said, okay, Jeff and I were going to read to see what we can do. So let's move on because we have very limited time. So what happens over here, basically, there are a resolution which is up under the link 1 that was put up over here. and it's Mondler versus Mipro or Mipro Homes. What happened is very simple. Mount Laurel Township was in the same position as we are, very large properties that can be immediately converted into multiple units, and they wanted to stop it. First they tried to do an overlay that was supposed to be not good, and then they did something else. And that's where we are going to ask to get approval, so we move on with. They did a open space amendment to their multiple, to the master plan. And what happened is, during this amendment, what you do, they establish a referendum that they were going to get open space money, which we did, and then they put in the master plan the fact that there are specific properties that they can be used for open space. And when the Mipro Homes who own 16 acres over there trying to develop those properties, they said, no, we're going to take it. If you don't want to sell it to us on a regular basis, we're going to condemn them and use the eminent domain. They went, of course, through court. The court said, first of them, the court said, no, you cannot do it. But the appeal court and then the Supreme Court.
Forget what happened in Mount Laurel. What is it you would like to
I want to do the same open space amendment in our master plan, so specific properties that if they come up for sale, we can use our open space money and purchase them to stop the development.
No, we don't need an open space amendment. What that decision was.
No, we do. Burgess said that we need to modify the master's plan and do an open space amendment in the master plan in order to be in compliance with the resolution that was done by the New Jersey Superior Appellate Court and affirmed we need to do that. And once we modify the master plan and we put the open space amendment that allows us specifically to purchase.
Jeff Zen is looking at this. Let's get an opinion from him.
Okay, what I'm asking is to basically ask the planning board to move on with this.
Well, let's wait for Jeff Zen to say
He is looking at this?
Yeah, I sent a copy.
Max sent a copy to him and he asked should he review it, and we said yes. I said yes, please.
Sure, exactly, and that's it's very important because
let's get an opinion from him first. I'll bring it back to you, or he'll bring it back to you, and then we'll see what we're going to do.
Okay.
All right. Once again, we've got a lot of old business here.
We are not doing the vacancy registration ordinance. She said to remove that.
I'd like, Lauren, I'd like to table all of the things on the old business. And
No, I will not. I'm sorry, I'm waiting for my smoking ordinance to get passed, especially since we are passing. No, we are passing all of these outdoor cafes in the consent order. I'm calling it for a vote. That will make it very fast.
Well, first of all,
I have some comments on it, though.
Go ahead,
Lauren.
fine.
But let's just sit here and call a vote.
You can call a vote.
We don't vote in
No,
work
not in work
sessions.
sessions.
Fine,
Outdoor
but
seating? Outdoor seating?
No, this is the smoking in any of the area around outdoor.
I want this to go move.
I'm in favor, it doesn't matter if I'm in favor or not, but I don't think, hold it, but I don't think
You're
we
taking
need
out the
the wording this
enforcement
way.
section,
No, first of all, you don't need a definition of secondhand smoke. It's not used anywhere in the thing. And don't tell me it is, because it's really not.
All right, fine, I just added the
Okay,
things.
so that definition's not necessary.
The whereas, that whereas?
No. There's a definition, she has a definition in there of secondhand smoke.
Okay.
It's not necessary,
Right.
okay?
Okay, take it out.
There's already an enforcement section that I think is good, and the fine's $200. I don't know why you would want to change it and put in
I like
a
that
separate
better.
one
I thought
for
we had-
$100.
Wait, the last time we had actually changed the
All you
enforcement
really
section.
need is one part of yours, the section 3-16.3 just says you can't smoke within 10 feet of a restaurant, except on private. That's all you need.
No, we also need designated non-smoking signs, because I've
Oh,
spoken with the
and the
Chamber of
signs.
Commerce
No, and you're right,
the
and
individual
signs.
restaurants, and they would
Right,
like
and
to
signs.
get signs, which takes the burden off of them to piss off their customers.
Has
Signs and the 10 feet, that's all you need.
Has the Chamber of Commerce given an opinion on whether they like this ordinance or not?
They have. And Christina Brun's here, so if I say anything wrong, represented.
Just Sayola and Clinton, they both will have their clients walking in the parking lot or the street.
They will not. They will?
The Clinton Inn has an outdoor
Seating. right.
seating area that if you're 10 feet, you're going to be walking in the parking lot to smoke, which perhaps might not be the best idea around the bar. And similarly, Sayola has a sidewalk, and if you're 10 feet off of their patio, you're standing in the seat
Well, just
after
about,
being at the bar.
just
You
about,
can't smoke on the
Right.
sidewalk or the street.
Can't smoke there.
Can't smoke there.
just about every,
You can't smoke there
every,
now, Krista.
just about every outdoor seating place, if you go 10 feet from it, you're in the street. Just about every one.
They're practically there.
No, and actually, you can stand on the track.
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, if you want to.
You could possibly get run over by a bicycle.
Okay.
Or
So,
baby stroller.
but with
Yeah.
those changes, I'm completely comfortable taking out the enforcement section and adding just those sections in.
Right. That's all you really need, just those two, because
I'm fine with that. So if you make those amendments, can we,
All right, so
when can I put it up for a vote?
The next step is for Bill to make those changes, bring it back to us, the council looks at it, and then the council can decide, not you, the council can decide, do we want to take it to the next step, which would be the first vote,
Fine.
okay? So
So
Bill, you'll make those
I'm
changes.
not delaying on that. So the
Yeah.
vacancy, vacancies getting delayed anyway.
we can want to talk about it tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay,
And the smoking one.
we're
yeah,
gonna
right.
make a motion to close the work session.
We just said-
So
Want to do the road
All in favor?
resurfacing contract?
Come
We're
on,
gonna need
guys,
to do
say
the-
aye.
Yeah,
Aye.
we're gonna do
Aye.
the
I'm
road
trying to.
resurfacing contract next
I'm
time.
sorry?
We're gonna do the road resurfacing contract next time.
Yeah. 5-minute break, and then we'll do a very quick public meeting.
Yes.
Just do it tonight, there's a street.
Depends on your
All right, that's what I wanted to do. Why do we need to delay it?
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice requirements have been satisfied. Meeting dates for the year confirmed at the annual meeting are posted in the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Copies of all revised or additional meeting notices are sent via fax to the record, Suburbanite and Northern Valley Press, and are posted in the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center. Salute to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bosch?
Here.
Councilmember Deaton?
Here.
Councilmember Grossman?
Here.
Councilmember Hayner?
Here.
Councilmember Clark?
Here.
Mayor Rustin?
Here. I'll entertain a motion to approve the following sets of minutes, April 17th, the regular meeting, and the closed session.
So move.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Revisions to the agenda?
None.
Wait, is the smoking ordinance on the agenda?
No, it was
That
new,
was the old business.
that is old
We're just
business.
on the old business, but it's not actually on for adoption,
No.
For introduction.
or introduction, I mean. Introduction.
So can it
All right,
be
well-
introduced?
So can we revise the agenda,
Well-
put it on for tonight, because it's short, and we can get it done by.
Isn't that supposed to be publicized?
Yeah, you can't.
Not for introduction. Right?
Sure.
Oh, it should be on the, should have been on the agenda as, for,
That's what I meant
that's
by
right, that's what,
publicized.
right.
Okay, so we'll do it
Yeah,
next
that's right,
time.
because that's why I asked if it was on there, right?
We'll do it next time.
Public comments, anybody?
I couldn't-
Thank you, Bill.
Public comments, going once? Right here.
I'm right here.
Right.
And on this
Well, I'm going around in the circle.
Guys, just give 2 minutes.
Yes. Folks,
You didn't discuss, but under the committee of the whole, it was down zoning ordinance for homes over 80 years old. What does that mean?
well, we didn't discuss it, we're gonna discuss it in the future, I don't know what exactly was.
Will maybe come again?
If we come again, you come again.
Lauren,
You ran for this.
Lauren, in 50 words or less, can you explain what you're thinking?
So the only idea behind it is that the HPC has notification, and the 80 is arbitrary, we were thinking maybe 100 or older, that if a 100-year-old home is going to be substantially revised, that the HPC has an opportunity to have notice of that.
Okay. This is hundreds of homes that are over 80 years old. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
we're
just wondering
working
what-
on a number, and HPC is consulting on that, and Jeff is gonna follow up with them.
Okay. and then
But
we'll-
again, it was for discussion purposes.
Okay, thank you. Another quick thing, and it was on the other agenda, vacancy registration ordinance. My question is, how do you determine what's vacant and what's abandoned with a home?
Well, there's a statute on abandoned properties. There's actually a state
There
statute.
is a, okay, I wanted because,
Okay,
you know,
and vacant is not
Temporarily.
necessarily, it would be defined in the ordinance.
oh, there is a regular state ordinance? with
There's
the
a state statute talking about abandoned properties.
Okay.
They have this definition of abandoned property, not vacant though.
Okay,
Thank you.
It'll be introduced at a later date. We're still working.
you'd like
on
to speak,
definition.
please?
Hi, yes, I'm Julie O'Connor. I am here as a representative for Moms Demand Action, and that is a gun safety group. And last year, the mayor and council, you successfully passed a proclamation for the Wear Orange Day. And I'm here to ask again that we have a proclamation, and just this is an example of some of the wording. I don't know if you want to do the same wording as last year, but we'd like a proclamation to declare the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in Tenafly, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence.
Is that the national day, the first Friday?
That is, yes, for the towns. And then just so you know, just following up with what Councilwoman Dayton said, that, you know, there are, in addition to these proclamations, which many of the towns have passed last year and are currently passing this year, there are these extension activities. So they'll turn certain landmarks in the town orange. Orange being a particularly meaningful color because it's also what hunters wear in the woods for not to get shot, so it's symbolic in that way. And additionally, it was the favorite color of this girl who had gotten murdered after she had performed at President Obama's second inauguration. She was like murdered. She was one of the Chicago students that they were referring to just about a week or two later. And then that became that Wear Orange movement, like in honor of her and the fact that we have to do something for gun violence. So we've appreciated your support in the past. I'd be happy to, after the resolution hopefully successfully passes, to maybe we'll communicate with the schools and see if we can go to businesses maybe to have some more presence of orange in the town.
Well, there's no problem with the proclamation. We'll do the proclamation, and Lauren will come back to us at the next meeting and discuss some options for activities on June the 2nd or June the 1st. Okay?
Thank you.
Any other public comment? We'll close the public comment section. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
The second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bosch?
Yes.
Councilmember Dayton?
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayter?
Yes.
Councilmember Park?
Okay. Committee reports. Jeff, you have anything?
Yeah, the planning board met. One of the things that I discussed previously was the application for the property on Washington Avenue that wanted to add the apartment units above. They've withdrawn that application without prejudice to renew. So they
Is that with
can
or
come
without
back.
now? I can't.
Without.
Okay.
And the other thing was that we had passed over to them about the properties on West Railroad for consideration and their input as historic properties. The bank representative did ask for an adjournment, as she has done every time, everywhere. And the sense of the planning board was not to give the adjournment, to go forward, to hear it. And I believe it will be coming back here with a recommendation that the council should consider the 5 properties.
But that hasn't been done yet.
Hasn't been done yet.
Okay.
But it should be pretty soon.
Okay. Max, you have anything?
Yes. The Senior Citizen Building Committee, whatever you want to call it, met. And we met with Lisette and we met with Jamie to start the process of making sure that we can coordinate between the different departments if we have to put the senior citizen in this building. We also met with Mark to discuss with him the availability of the teen center, and everybody is in agreement that that can be done.
Hold on a second.
Sure.
Now, once again, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
you just did.
Accuracy counts at this table. It's a public meeting. Mark Slauson stated that he doesn't understand how you would plan on moving pool tables and ping pong tables every day.
Yeah, we don't.
He also doesn't understand what's going to happen when there's school vacations and the teen center is open Monday through Friday during the day.
Yeah.
When there's half days at the schools and
Yeah.
the teen center is open at noon,
Yes,
he doesn't understand how this could work.
it's not gonna be
Jamie
working.
at the rec department doesn't understand where all her programs would go. So I'm not
That's
sure.
strange, Mayor, because when we were in the meeting.
Yeah, we were the three of us.
We were three of us in the
Either
meeting.
something happens
Three-
behind
who's
our
the
back,
three?
I was there
Lauren,
as well.
Shama, myself.
Well, where did
and
she tell you she was gonna put her programs?
we're gonna
she
work
was
together.
willing to work with
The
us.
whole idea
totally
was that we're
willing.
gonna work together to make sure that all the, if something happens behind our back, we don't know. I'm reporting exactly what we discussed.
Okay, but I'm
for
I'm
accuracy
asking you,
for the-
where will those programs go?
We will work together. This is not a question of failing. We need a senior center, and we're gonna build a senior center. So the idea is, the whole idea is, we will basically work together to make sure that during the time that we'll have that one, we'll have a
Well,
common.
I think the first step that the committee should do is figure out where to put all these programs.
That's exactly what we.
That's the process
that's
we're
the
doing,
process we're
Mayor,
doing,
and I don't
we are
understand.
stopped from, you know.
Well, I'm just giving you the feedback that I get.
Yeah,
No,
well, we
then why
got the
did, why
complaint.
couldn't she say it to the committee? Why was
Because
she
you-
in
because-
agreement with the
you-
committee?
You want to know something? Because this process is very intimidating to the department heads, which is one of the reasons the normal process, Shama, as you were well aware for many years, was count individual members of the governing body don't do this. Okay, they don't go, three of them go and intimidate.
Nobody was intimidating
this is-
anybody.
I'm just telling
I'm
you-
very
I'm-
sorry.
I'm just
I am
telling
very
you-
sorry.
I'm just
It is
telling
being
you what the-
misrepresented totally. There was
Absolutely, this is a
absolutely
dead-faced,
no, there was
this is a
absolutely
dead-faced
no
approach.
intimidation.
Well, once again,
It
you're
was
saying you're
we
going to
were
work
asking their
together.
opinions. We were asking them, here's an idea, what do you think of it? We never said this, you will do this now.
But once again, the question that she gave me is, I have nowhere to put my program.
No,
Bart said, what are we going to do when the teen center's open during the week,
That's
during
part
the
of the
day?
discussion
What's the-
there,
and-
but you can't start the discussion by saying we can't do anything.
No, no.
That's not acceptable. And I'm very sorry, this misrepresentation of that the committee was intimidating anybody is
Well, let me
absolutely
ask you a question.
false.
I
If
agree
you're-
with that.
If you're an employee
Yeah.
and three council people come to you and say, this is what we want to do,
Yeah.
what would you suggest the employee, what do you think the employee's going to think?
Mayor, it was an exploratory meeting. It was presented as, we have the idea to create a senior center for our senior community.
No, not a bad idea, it's a good
Okay,
idea.
and it wasn't
Time out,
presented in
time
an
out, time out.
Just a
intimidating way.
minute.
Hold on a second, this is
No,
important. It
this
was
is
not
important.
presented in an intimidating way. It was presented as, here's an idea, what do you think, could we get this to work? Not, you must do this, we have to have this. It was not
Okay.
presented
Well,
in
when you
that
get
way.
it to work, I don't think we should do anything else
It
other than
will
getting
require
it
a
to
lot of
work.
scheduling,
Yeah,
but
figure
if
out
that
how to-
That is what we intend to
this
do, is to
enforcement.
make it work, but.
This is becoming, it's something
I
very wrong
understand.
over here.
Absolutely. I
Something
couldn't
very
agree
wrong.
more.
When we meet and people, have, and then behind our, say, well, the second,
They were they're intimidating us. What?
This is, it's.
We really need to
In
clarify
bad
that.
faith, it's in absolute bad
Absolutely
faith,
bad faith.
and say it's not true, which is absolutely false, because we have now three people that can tell you that it's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something bad behind the whole thing over here when we are presenting. And what we're
And
gonna
to
ask we're gonna ask the council priest, because this cannot come on like this, to give us permission to talk to all the department heads to make sure that.
Excuse me, what
Yeah.
is the administrator's job?
The administrator has to administrate, but if the administrator is going to work against us, against
The
what the
administrator
council,
isn't working against you.
then she should give us approval to go and move forward. If that's what she wants, very good. I'm getting, at this moment in time, we said we're going to have a truth and we're going to discuss. I mean, you said that that's not true. It was true. You have people over here. You said that they didn't say the word. They did. They didn't get neither intimidated nor something. Is something behind now is saying, well, you didn't say that. No. So I'm asking basically to be able to continue these meetings, because it's important.
I didn't tell you you can't continue.
No, because I asked you, we want to continue to talk to
What,
Becky.
next time we have to
You're insinuating
record the
we're gonna
meetings now?
report.
That's what you start doing now, record everybody's statements. That's nonsense.
You may not think that your demeanor or your tone of voice is intimidating, but I can assure you that when employees speak with elected officials, they are intimidated.
Well,
Right.
I'm sorry.
And they have a tendency to say,
We
and
said
tell
we're gonna
you
be a
what they
team.
think you want to hear.
Yeah.
Well, then
Even,
that
even
just
when
shows
they've
the quality of the
even when they've
employee.
got serious reservations about things.
Well, then that, I'm sorry, only reflects on the quality of the employee then. I'm sorry to say that.
Yeah, if they cannot basically, and we see.
And this is why they're intimidated.
sorry, this
Because if they don't go along with what you want,
No, if they don't go along, they have to tell us. We're asking them. I'm not telling them, I'm asking them. We're thinking of this. What do you think?
Let me ask you, let me ask you a question, Shaba. You've been here for a long time. Okay, what do you think the library would feel about having Zumba classes in that room next to them?
We don't know, Mayor,
I'm
because
asking you
I
what
went
you would
and met
think.
with them. I'll give you my committee
Because for
report.
years, they've been very, very protective of that room.
So let's answer that, because we met with the director of the library who said, I never used that, the McCandless room. I never knew that I own them. I'm trying not to use it because they put me to go through a lot of paperwork that I have to fill, so I have no activities. I didn't know that we own them. So it's only the people in the borough hall that are using it. So as far as I'm concerned, you can do whatever, we have no activities over there. So you ask the question, we answer the question, because we mentioned it with the director.
We went to meet her, and this is part of my committee report, but we went together. I'm going to be not presenting is the wrong word, discussing it in the library board meeting, that this is what we are thinking of. Let's see what they come back with.
Yeah,
Because it is, after all, library room, and whether they use it or not, they should be.
Theoretically, so we want to continue to do this. We need to meet with Becky. We need the information to be able. So I'm asking the council to basically reinforce the fact that we are continuing with this, and we're going to do it in a professional manner without any impediments.
Well, I just think that it's really important, because I'm very familiar with the programs that both Mark runs and Jamie runs, and I don't know how you could reconcile using those spaces, because unfortunately, it's not that I'm trying to impede your process. I would, in order for me to feel that this is a good idea, I would need to know where these programs go.
That's what we need to. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We try to meet, and we're going to start meeting now with Becky. We're going to have a joint meeting with Becky and all the other people, and to continue to the schedule.
It would seem to me that before you even started this, the first place you should go to the senior center and find out, did the seniors want to come over here?
Okay.
Do you remember what happened when you proposed?
Yes, I did discuss that
the
with
swim
Becky.
club?
I did discuss this with Becky, and I told you that we had her full support. She looked at the entire schedule. I gave her the schedule and she said she can meet with her, and I have every single event, how many people are. I had a plan. We looked at the total amount of space, and she said she can meet with the total within and adjust her schedule to meet over there. I said, would that be a good place for this one while we for the town hall to be the place while the
and she agreed, because this is what you said last time, that they would shut down for the summer.
I didn't say we shut down.
Yeah, you did. When we said that the teen center uses the McCandless room for camp in the summer, you said, well, teen center can close for the summer.
No, nobody said that.
Nobody said that.
Nobody said that.
Nobody's going to shut down the teen center. I don't know
Not the
where
teen
this
center, not the teen center, the senior center.
Misinformation.
No.
Mayor, look, here's the thing. We need to build a new senior center. We all agree on that.
And we have something coming up in closed session to talk about that.
And also that it's going to take some adjustments, some give and take from the entire town.
Only if we close that senior center down.
That's.
But there's other options.
Well, we are talking about that.
Cart before the horse. Why are we discussing scheduling if you don't even know where the building's going?
I'm sorry?
Cart before the horse. Why are we discussing scheduling?
Because we're looking at the most logical option.
When are we going to budget for this brand new building?
It's not, that's once we discuss and decide that it can be done this way, then we can move ahead.
We have budgets, we can use COA money, and the whole idea is...
Why would you think that you could use COA money?
I'll tell you exactly why.
Scheduling.
I wish you would.
Because we need to understand if this is a feasible option.
That's what we
And
need
that's
to
the
know.
whole idea. If there's a feasible
So if
option.
we can't schedule, we can't get a new senior building, is what you're
No, we
saying.
can't. There are other
Feasibility
options.
right there.
No, there are other options, but this is the least expensive. This is gonna require the least expensive amount of money from the point of view, you don't have to purchase properties, you do not have to do anything.
Almost like you've decided we're getting a senior center.
We need to get a senior
will get a
center.
senior center.
Absolutely, we're gonna
Cart
get the
before
senior
the
center.
horse.
What horse? What
Senior
horse?
building, new senior center building.
Yeah,
Why are we worrying about the schedule before we know we're getting?
because it's a
where the-
good alternative, and it doesn't require to purchase anything. It does not require additional funds. So we can, instead of purchasing another place for $1 million, we can use the existing one if we can find an alternative
We
work.
are, this is exploratory
And
work.
it's very good
It's
for,
not-
we're not
it
gonna
is
spend money
not a done
just to
deal of
spend money.
any kind, but we have to do our exploratory work before we can even present anything to anybody.
Yeah.
But if we just sit back and say, well, we want to build it, but we don't know how to do it, we don't.
Yeah, and
That's-
spend $1 million,
that's not an
spend $1
option.
million to buy something, and again, that's not exactly the
You have
smartest
to
thing.
investigate. It's not costing anybody for council people to go and investigate. We're not hiring some highfalutin.
So let's say this project is 2 years away,
Yeah,
So
financially,
yeah,
budget-wise.
Right.
yeah.
It has to be. I can't.
Don't
You
think
do
too
all this
hard.
work for the next 2 years, schedules change, projects
look,
get added.
you have to start
Nobody's
somewhere.
creating
No,
a new schedule
you-
now. We're just.
Dan,
asking,
you have to
could this
start
be
somewhere.
possible?
You
Yeah,
have to start
exactly.
with some basic idea.
I
Do
honestly think
you
this is
know?
ass backwards.
Well,
Yeah.
then if you have, I would like to know: is there anything
What-
They're putting out a
accounting
fire
or
before
funding?
you started.
Well, then
No.
help us start. Then help us.
If you
get-
have
help us
another
work
idea,
co-op
we
and
are
do
more
right
than well
studies.
eager to hear
We
it.
decide what kind of building we're going to do.
We don't know. We don't know what's possible yet. We don't know what kind of funding we can.
We
get.
need to understand first if we
Well,
can
unless
do
you
it.
have a
Therefore,
concept.
you don't know what you're talking about, right?
No, no,
No,
You don't know what the plan is. You don't know what
no,
the plan is.
no. We don't have engineering and architectural plans.
Max, make a point,
Never mind. Cart before the horse, that's all I'm saying.
That's one
then
Well,
help
what
us
is your
work
option?
with
What
the
would you
board.
suggest? Then if you have an option, come talk
I
to
have an
us.
option and we'll discuss in closed session.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
okay, let's move on. Okay, so we get the approval, I'm asking the council to approve, to move forward to a meeting. I hope that I get your approval.
Yeah, sure, we should keep
Need a vote?
investigating.
What do we?
Do we need
We
a
don't
vote
need a
or?
vote. We need to
No.
investigate.
You
We've
don't-
already
you don't
formed
need
the
a- You don't
committee.
need a vote, you have a committee.
We have a
whatever
committee,
you want.
committee
Okay,
can
all
do
right.
their job.
Okay, so the next thing. Okay,
Shama, you have any committee?
No, I don't
reports?
have, I told you about the library meeting, that's my
Yeah.
only committee report.
Dan,
Earth Day was very successful up in at the North Valley Danvers High School. Very well attended. I want to thank the Green Team for putting everything together and all the volunteers. The DPW guys, our recycling coordinator. And if you guys are interested in seeing a PSA made by one of our students, it is playing at the Tenafly movie theater for the next 3 months. It was
Oh, really?
yeah, anti-smoking one.
Woohoo!
Ooh, we should go see
Anti-vape, I'm
it.
sorry, anti-vape.
Fine. That counts as a combustible cigarette.
is that it, Dan? Dan?
Huh?
That it?
And the ANJAC grant, TNC applied for upgrades to their butterfly cage.
Nice.
Lauren, do you have anything?
Yes, the Chamber of Commerce had a very successful street fair, and they would like to have everyone participate in the Dumpling Festival, which will be May 18th and 19th. It's a very good fundraiser. The youth center hasn't met, but they would like to know the status of the construction, but I told them to work with you. The recreation needs 2 things. There has been an issue with the co-sponsored sports using our Community Pass email server and sending out emails to our residents that are either political or misinformed, or people don't want an outside organization using our rec department email, so we have to come up with an idea for an email policy that would make sense, so that,
Well, that's rec board stuff.
right, so I'm talking about rec.
Yeah.
So that's on the record. And the second thing is, there is an issue with the co-sponsored sports, of course, doing tryout makeups for travel sports and things, and that's come up before them.
Well, that's always been an issue.
Yeah. The welcoming committee has invited our entire council and mayor and all governing body to their new firehouse and ice cream truck event on May 16th at 6:30. Please come join. This is to meet new residents that have moved in Again, it's at the firehouse. It's a firehouse tour and an ice cream truck for new residents. So we'll now have a spring event and a fall event, which I really like this.
I talked to Peter and talked to you, Susan Van Pasnek from Pasnek, who would
Yes,
like to,
be on
if
the
you can.
I spoke with Susan today.
I reached out to her.
Like I said, we may be maxed out on the roster, but she can certainly
No,
participate.
they're actually looking for new members of welcome.
Good.
We actually lost someone who's now moving to Haworth.
Well, remind Roxanne to let me know when people move away, this way I can
Morning
fill
committee
vacancies.
event, it's on May 16th at 6:30.
May 16th, 6:30, please come to the firehouse. So I think that's a very nice addition to that. And in history, I guess, when you moved to Tenafly, you got a tour of the firehouse, so we're putting that back. Zoning has the zoning and planning board meeting coming up on, what day is it, Jeff? May 29th? If anyone wants to attend.
May 16th.
Well, we basically
May
have a
29.
quorum, as almost a quorum, because you are the liaison, Jeff and myself is three. A fourth would be a quorum.
You know, for the public, if anyone wants to do it, and, you know, the newspaper. And joint use, of course, as everyone's aware, the school board has put into their budget money for Class 3 security officers. Nothing has been voted on yet. They just did a line item for that expenditure.
That was removed, I believe.
Was it?
Yeah, and it's gonna be on the,
It was removed for the time being.
From their
Did
budget?
not know that, so there you go.
From their budget?
From their.
Yeah, I believe so. Is that it?
That's my committee report.
Two things. One is I just wanted to let you know that the senior center had a crafts fair on Saturday. It was extremely successful. They had tremendous amount of traffic and really a great group of vendors. I mean, the place was filled with vendors, and they did a very nice job. Also, this isn't really a committee report or anything, but I went over to the high school today. The STEM group had a big event focusing on the USS United States. Following by, they had about 12 different teams from various high schools doing a engineering competition. It was really wonderful. Really, it was amazing, and I felt like I was in an Ivy League school, what they were doing. And I'm sorry I don't know the woman's name. That's the engineering teacher there. She and Dave Gregorio did a great job. It was really a remarkable thing. So with that, I'd like to, unless somebody has something of real urgency, old business, new business, mayor's remarks, I'd like to
Ready to close.
go read the motion to go into closed.
Resolved in compliance with NJSA 10:12, Mayor and Council, we'll go into closed executive session, discuss the following matters. We have a personal matter involving the appointment of Assistant Borough Administrator. We have a number of attorney-client privilege matters, one being discussing the DPW investigation. Second is about a recent DPW vehicle accident. The third about the release of certain police information. And the fourth concerning potential property acquisition. We also have a discussion about a collective bargaining matter, and that involves the DPW supervisor's contract negotiations update.
Motion to go into closed?
Wait, minutes will be taken to the meeting and release to the public until matters are resolved. After this closed executive session, Mayor and Council will reconvene in this Richard D. Wilson Committee Room to adjourn this public meeting.
A motion?
Now.
So moved. A second? All in favor? I want to thank you because I believe I have a really good shot. I bet the president of the school board, they have a meeting tonight, that we will go longer than them. And it's not easy because they're going to midnight also. But I think we got a shot.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, good night.
Shutting that door, please? Thank you very much.
I just have to stretch.
Somebody want to shut the kitchen door, please? We're not going to run out of food, I don't think. Thank you, Aaron.